Julio?
Trujillo.
Trujillo. All right. Welcome, Commissioner.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. You're now live.
Thank you, Adrian. Good morning. It is 9:03 a.m. on January 28th. We are going to call to order the Board of Directors meeting for the Animal Service Center of the Mesilla Valley. Clint, would you mind calling the roll?
Yes, sir. We have Chair Flores, Madam Chair Flores, Vice Chair Sanchez,
Present.
Board member Abetistuve,
Here.
Board Member Trujillo,
Here.
let's see. I didn't get my list quite done yet. Board Member Gondra, ex officio member Jeannie Quintero,
Present.
and ex officio member Eric Enriquez. All right, Vice Chair, looks like we have quorum.
Okay, and I'll note for the record also from the county side, Commissioner Ellens is also staying on the board as well, along with myself, and so it does not look like he is present. So we'll just note that for the record.
Thank you.
I see Chair Flores joining in. You're still on mute, Madam Chair.
I'm so sorry. Thank you for taking over, Manny.
Sure,
Commissioner
no problem.
Sanchez.
We were getting ready to item number 2 or section 2, changes to the agenda and approval of the agenda. But
Thank you. Are there any changes?
None from the center, Madam Chair.
I beg your pardon?
None from the center. The ASCMV.
Oh, is that you, Clint?
Yeah, sorry, none from me.
Madam Chair,
Okay.
this is Commissioner
Thank you.
Sanchez.
Yes.
I would just like to note that for the record that Mr. Enriquez and I just saw Commissioner Ellens is connecting on as well, so they should they look like they'll be I just want to show for the record that they are in attendance.
They are in attendance. So we do have a quorum, though. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been on this item, correct?
Correct.
Great.
Yes.
Do you know whether, Commissioner Sanchez, do you know whether Commissioner, speaking of quorums, apropos quorums, whether Commissioner Trujillo will be on the board?
She is, and she is present.
Oh, wonderful. Welcome, Commissioner Trujillo.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome. Nice seeing you again.
Likewise.
Okay. Thank you. So, okay. So, the minutes. Did everyone have an opportunity to review the minutes? Excuse me. Yes, Mr. Heyman, Mr. Sanchez?
Oh, I was just going to make a motion that we approve the agenda.
Perdón. Yes, thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilor Abetistuve. And can we have a roll call on that, please?
I'm going to do my best. This is Clint Thacker. Madam Chair Flores,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sanchez,
Yes.
Board Member Abetistuve,
Yes.
Board Member Trujillo,
Yes.
Board Member Ellens, Board Member Ellens. You're on mute, sir.
Commissioner Allens, the easiest way to unmute would be to press I believe your space bar
Hold it
while
down.
you're talking. That'll give you a quick unmute.
You just need to hold it down, Commissioner, as you talk.
Do you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So what is your vote, sir?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, Madam Chair, passes. Motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioner Sanchez. The next item is reports and presentations. No, excuse me, yes, reports and presentations. I see that Gilbert, so
Madam
Coalition,
Chair,
yes.
you don't have approval of the minutes yet. We just did
Oh.
approval of the agenda.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Sorry, Madam Chair. This is Commissioner Sanchez. I'll make a
Okay,
motion to
we
approve
need
the
a-
minutes.
Do we need a vote? I mean, okay, do I have a motion for that? May I have a motion for the approval of the minutes?
This is Commissioner
So moved.
Sanchez. I'll move approval.
Thank
I'll
you.
second. Abida Stupi.
Moved by Commissioner Sanchez and seconded by Councilor Abeyta Stuvi to approve the minutes of the regular ASCMV board meeting held on December 17, 2020. Roll call, please.
Thank you. Madam Chair Flores,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sanchez,
Yes.
Board Member Abeyta Stuvi,
Yes.
Board Member Trujillo,
Yes.
Board Member Ellens.
Yes.
Motion passes, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Thacker. On to reports and presentations. That's item 4, subsection A, Coalition for Pets and People. Jean Gilbert, are you ready to present?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Proceed.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm just waiting for the PowerPoint to come up.
Okay.
Okay, this is today's presentation by the Coalition for Pets and People. The organizations that are represented in this month's report are listed here. And as you know, we alternate. So the organizations that aren't on this list will be in next month's presentation. And statistics with information on the programs and services of the organizations that are listed here are provided in the board members' packets. Thank you. Next slide, please. The coalition's work includes serving as allies of the shelter and supporting area animal welfare organizations and their missions. This list shows some of the ways that we've helped. Also in the area of continuing education, attending a webinar that was sponsored by the Animal Protection of New Mexico with headquarters in Albuquerque, and the webinar was on humane education. Thank you. Next slide, please. This is Barkhouse, and Barkhouse pictured is Inky on the left. Inky was terrified when she arrived at the shelter and so scared that she would tightly wrap her paws around attendants, people that were working with her. And she delivered 8 puppies the day after Barkhouse pulled her from the shelter. Inky and her pups were part of the group of of mom dogs and 22 puppies that were transported by air in mid-December to Denver, where they were welcomed by Colorado Puppy Rescue. And all of these animals, we can assume, have found homes now. Pictured right is Kelly Barker, founder of Uncaged Paws, which was founder of Uncaged Paws, which is now known as Barkhouse. As noted by Barkhouse's logo in the lower right corner, their mission is to fix, chip, and ship animals in their care, meaning that they spay and neuter, microchip, and transport or provide rescue by relocation. Okay, next slide, please. Pictured left is Cody Anderson, a student pilot with Chief Pilot Dr. Lauren Chavez with the Southwest Aeronautics, Mathematics, and Science Academy. They flew Inky, who was referenced in the previous slide, and 22 puppies with mom dogs on the first leg of the flight with transfer in Albuquerque, and then on to Colorado. In addition to this flight, Barkhouse is in partnership with Donana County Animal Control, sponsored a flight in early December for 73 Animal Service Center shelter dogs to Portland, Oregon. And this was a feature that was in the Las Cruces Bulletin. I'm sure many of you saw that in the Las Cruces Bulletin. Before we move to the next slide, I'd like to ask Jeannie Quintero if she has anything she'd like to add regarding county's work, partnership with Barkhouse. We do understand that they have 3 moms and pups in their care now, that mom dogs that have recently delivered puppies that came from the shelter. Jeannie, do you have anything you'd like to add or an update?
Oh, just to announce the birth this morning of 6 new puppies. They're doing well, and we are assisting with temporary housing for pregnant dogs, county dogs that are coming from the shelter or from rescue or picked up. And we have been working with Barkhouse pretty much to serve as a hub for transport. We hope to formalize this relationship in a few months. But right now we are happy to help out. We are happy to put our court hold facility to use. And we're just full of babies right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeannie. And next slide, please. I'm Almost Home Animal Rescue is based in El Paso and serves that area as well as Las Cruces. Their director, Diane Avery, works closely with many fosters and groups here in Las Cruces. Effie, pictured left, was found just before Christmas, huddled and nearly frozen by a hardware store in Chaparral, with 3 big gashes across her back and shoulder. Excuse me. It was assumed that injuries were caused by either dog or coyote attacks to Effie, and Dr. Hayden at Animal Services Center treated Effie and put drains in her, while I'm Almost Home Animal Rescue secured a foster for Effie. The dog pictured right was also rescued by I'm Almost Home Animal Rescue, found as a stray in Anthony, and this dog was acting very frantic, going to every car in the store parking lot, trying to find someone to help it. In 2020, I'm Almost Home Animal Rescue networked over 1,000 dogs. And in the first 15 days of 2021, they've transported over 60 dogs and puppies to areas of the country where they note, and this is something interesting for us to know, is that stray unwanted dogs in other places seemingly don't exist, and where dogs are welcomed and needed as companions and part of a family. Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. And Las Cruces Dog Park is located at 430 North Hermosa, south of Mearshite Center. City Parks and Rec do a power washing of the park on a regular basis, while dog park members maintain the park with monthly washdowns and cleanups. On the right, you see Astro, who is a regular visitor to the park, en route with his owner to the park. And in addition to the volunteer services that dog parkers provide, they also advocate for community animals that need help, like the dog pictured left, who was this Great Dane mix, who was a lost dog. The Las Cruces Pet Network advocate, the animal advocates who are the primary people that do the distribution work for the network are Randy Meyer and Dee Dougal. And they send notices to a very large distribution list regarding animals in need, like Snoop, who's pictured left, who was lost and eventually reunited with his owner. The Pet Network also advocates for shelter dogs like Big Boy, who's pictured right, who was a long-term resident at the shelter, recently was placed in a home, and it's our understanding, a recent update, that it isn't working out. And so Kevin Armstrong, the director of the dog park, actually is advocating for Big Boy, and I think they're going to be looking into getting training, perhaps through Rough to Ready, the Doñana County Humane Society's behavior and training that they offer free for shelter for dogs that have been adopted from the shelter. So we're hoping for a good outcome for Big Boy. The Pet Network, before we move, the Pet Network logged more than 80 email notices in 2020 to members on their distribution list. Okay, thank you. Next slide, please.
Madam Chair.
Forever Homes Animal Rescue is based
Excuse me.
in... Yes.
Excuse me, Jean. Commissioner Trujillo, did you have a question?
Yes, Ms. Gilbert,
Yes.
on Big Boy, did they specify what problems he had that with them working out at the new home? Is he really hyper, or did they say?
Yes, it's my understanding that too much dog, too much energy. So probably needs some training. I don't know if it's still going to work with training, but like I said, Kevin Armstrong is being an advocate for the dog and helping with the person who, and it's my understanding the person who adopted the dog will still continue to be a foster anyway. Thank you for
Big Boy sound reminds me of my dog and really hyper. So that's what it looks like. Thank you.
Thank you. Forever Homes Animal Rescue is based in Alamogordo and assists animals in southern New Mexico, El Paso, and Juarez. Jamie Jones is the Las Cruces representative, and their year-to-date estimate totals are 674 animals were helped through their organization by rescue, transport, and transfer during 2020. 133 dogs came from Doñana, Luna, and Otero counties, with more than 50 dogs, I think largely dogs, from the shelter, including the two pictured here. 145 dogs they helped from Juarez were rescued and helped during 2020. The dog pictured right, I know, recently went to an Australian Shepherd rescue. And of course, Forever Homes Animal Rescue was involved in the transport. Both dogs in very urgent need, being pregnant and having other, like the heartworm positive dog pictured right. So it's extremely important work that they do. Okay, next slide, please. Safe Haven Animal Sanctuary celebrates their 25th anniversary this year, and they're commemorating that with a special calendar featuring some of their sanctuary pets. Jazz, pictured right, was recently adopted and is their January dog. Shaw's was successful in adopting over 20 animals during 2020, and as we know, 2020 was an extremely challenging year. Next slide, please. Safe Haven has many friends and allies in the community, including Your Pet Space, which is a boarding and daycare facility for pets here in Las Cruces. They led a pet food and supply drive at their facility during the month of December for Safe Haven, and were very successful, as noted by the SUV packed vehicle pictured that carried the large load of items to the sanctuary. Tricia Quillen is Safe Haven representative, is pictured right in the center holding a check donated by Your Pet Space. And next slide, please. This slide summarizes important information for SNAP's services, including client requirements for vouchers. SNAP has facilitated the sterilization of 19,000 pets in our area since 2002, which is a remarkable number. Statistics with breakdown of categories for 2020 and for January 21 are provided in board members' packets. Total spay-neuter voucher issued for 2020 by SNAP numbered 1,227. Next slide, please. Kat Lacey, owner of Better Life Pet Foods, presents a check to Rachel Snow, a representative of SNAP. Kat is pictured far left, and Rachel's the other gal. The large check to support SNAP's important work was made possible through Better Life Pet Foods loyalty program, allowing customers to donate their points, which translate into dollars accrued from purchases, to go to SNAP or their other options, of course, listed within the loyalty program. Better Life does a lot for area animal welfare organizations. And just one more slide, please. Over 10 years ago, a group of animal lovers created Change a Pet's Life Day, observed on January 24th, to recognize the hard work of shelter staff and volunteers, to encourage the adoption of shelter pets, and to raise awareness about the challenges for animals living in shelters. The coalition believes that this should be observed every day. We invite you to join us, a large group of allies, in supporting the shelter and bringing more resources for life-saving through rescue, foster, transport, adoption, and a variety of other advocacy roles. Please call the numbers that are listed here for information about the coalition. And I'd like to thank all of you for your attention to this presentation. And I stand for any questions that you might have or comments now. Thank you.
Any questions?
Madam Chair, it's Commissioner Sanchez.
Yes, proceed. I don't have a, there you go. Oh, yes.
I don't have a question just so much as I just wanted to, just say, Ms. Gilbert, I appreciate you coming in every month providing updates, and appreciate all the partner groups that we have that work along with the ASCMV to, I think, really help amplify the message, help provide additional resources to making sure we're finding homes for all of our animals here. So thank you so much, Ms. Gilbert.
Thank you for your positive comment. Appreciate it. I do have a quick question, if I could ask it, please.
Absolutely.
And that is, and maybe it'll be addressed in any of the reports coming up. But I'm just curious. I served as a member of the task force, and I know that we've had the public input process, at least. I'm assuming that it has been completed on the city ordinances. And so my question is, I'm just wondering when that might be finalized. And the reason I'm expressing concern, excuse me, is because, the coalition, we follow the stats closely, the animal shelter. And as allies, we want to keep informed. And we're concerned that city community cats are, by virtue of how the laws stand right now, are euthanized if they come to the shelter. And so we know that's going to change when the ordinance goes into effect. But anyway, if someone could answer that, I'd appreciate it.
Madam Chair, this is Clint Thacker. I can help you with
Yes.
that.
Thank you. Proceed, Mr. Thacker.
So just on Tuesday, we had a meeting regarding this. We being city officials, and we were able to pretty much track down that, yes, the comments, are good information coming from individuals who made comments. So the plan is to make sure legal has the ordinance, and then also to get the information that was feedback given back to the task force, I believe is what it was. So we, look forward to that moving forward. I know that Mr. Enriquez said probably around March or so, it could be going to council for review, but yeah, it's moving forward. So we're glad to hear it.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Ms. Gilbert. It was nice to be updated on. I wasn't part of that officials. I don't know which officials participated in that. Elected officials or staff? Mr. Thacker.
It was staff that participated in.
Okay. So, Mr. Enriquez, do you have anything to add to what Mr. Thacker just presented?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. Just want to add that, yes, the ordinance is being reviewed by legal. As soon as we get that back, what we'd like to do is schedule a work session so that we can share with the city council the significant changes, and then get the final direction and move with the change in the ordinance.
Mr. Enriquez, do you think that resolution, the discussion work session will be held in February or March?
Depending on when we get the approval from legal. If we can get it real soon, there's some openings in the work sessions that we can get it probably late February or early March is what we're anticipating. So we can have the work session and again discuss the significant changes in the ordinance and then get directions from City Council.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Enriquez. And thank you again, Ms. Gilbert, for the question. And thank you, Mr. Thacker, for providing some information on that. Yes. Mr. Thacker?
Madam Chair.
Oh, Mr. Ellens, is that you?
Gene, I keep reading accounts that because everybody has been required to stay home 7 days a week, that pet adoptions nationally have increased as a result, needing companionship and things like that. Has that been the case as far as your organizations are concerned?
Well, I think it pretty much varies from organization to organization. I feel like, for example, HSS&M, which I'm on the board of, our adoption numbers are down, but we've increased in other capacities and in other work. And so I think that's the case with other organizations. We all have our own missions, and they differ. I think what's hurt animal organizations in terms of adoptions has been they have not been able to showcase their animals places. Like you have your organizations that will come to PetSmart and showcase them there, and they haven't been able to do that. So I think Clint could speak to that too. I know in a previous Animal Services Board meeting, Clint was noting that because the animals that, adoptions at the shelter, they are by appointment people. So these are serious people who are very serious about adopting an animal, and they're making an appointment to come to the shelter. So I don't know, Clint, do you want to add to that, to Mr. Ellen's question?
I think you did a good job. It depends on the place's mission of what it is. You know, we have seen not really an increase, but a steady stream of rescue opportunities that are coming through. So we're putting a lot of animals, continue to put a lot of animals through rescues, and you're going to see that increase in number when I do my presentation. As far as adoptions, I would like to say that adoptions are holding on strong. We had a great day yesterday with 7 dogs leaving. Or 7 total animals. I think 5 of them were dogs. So things are holding steady, for sure.
And if I can interject in this too, just to kind of recap everyone on that December 6th lift that we assisted Barkhouse with, we sent out 74 dogs and young to adult, and within a week, the vast majority of them were adopted. And all of them were not placed in a shelter, but the ones who weren't adopted right away were placed in foster care. So I think, and I agree with Jean and Clint, that it's mostly a regional need and what you're looking at. Now, we had sent all those dogs to Oregon. They have a need there. So I think, again, it just varies on geographical location and what the needs of that community are.
Thank you, Ms. Quintero. Any further comments on that question regarding adoptions? If not, if there are no further questions, thank you so much, Ms. Gilbert. Next item is the City and County ACO reports. Mary Lou, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. Let me go ahead and start my report, and I will start it with I don't know if you can see the whole screen, or can you see the whole screen?
Yes.
Okay.
It's visible
Great.
to me, probably everybody.
Okay, so let me go ahead and start with our December reporting for December, and I kind of implemented our December numbers and then our year-to-date. So if we go into our dispatch calls for December, we had 446 dispatch calls for the month, which gave us a year-to-date of 6,266. Our self-initiated calls were 117, which gave us a year-to-date of 1,285, and then our assists were 23, which gave us a year-to-date of 262. So our grand total for the month was 586. And our follow-ups, which I hadn't been putting in here because we during the first part of the year we were keeping statistics a little bit differently. So for the year to date, that was 1,098. So that gave us a grand total of 8,911 calls that we've either responded to or followed up on or assisted with for the year. And reported, and that is actually supposed to be for December, and I thought I had switched that. It's supposed to be for December. And I'm hoping that I'm on the correct slide. So for the reported strays, so we reported 267 stray animals for the month, and it should be for the month of December. So it says for November, but it's December. So for reported for the year would be 3,257. We picked up 52 stray cats and 88 stray dogs, so which would give us a total of 140 stray animals. Additionally to that number, we had an owner surrender cat of 1 cat, which we hadn't been getting owner surrender cats. If you'd look back at the previous stats, that's pretty much been in the zero. But we did have 1 owner surrender cat, 11 owner surrender dogs, 17 sick or injured animals, a welfare hold, 1 cruelty, abuse, neglect, and then a shelter quarantine. And you'll get the reasons for the owner surrender here in just a minute. And then this is our comparison chart, kind of like what the city was doing. They'll show you the comparisons. And then, of course, this is just an explanation of the district. So that'll be good to leave in there for our new commissioners coming in. And then breaking it down into the districts. So District 1, we had 0 cats and 4 stray dogs picked up. District 2, 11 stray cats, 12 stray dogs. District 3, 21 stray cats, 16 stray dogs. District 4, 12 stray cats, 22 stray dogs. District 5, 17 stray dogs. District 6, 4 stray dogs. And District 7, 8 stray cats and 13 stray dogs. So our bite calls, we had 7 exposure bites to humans, 1 bite to another animal. We didn't have any rabies submissions this month, and of 1 quarantined at the Animal Services Center. We had these 3 for a prior case is actually from the last time. I don't know why this got stuck in there, because there was another one that got sent in, and then some that were GOA. So our owner releases, and we've got, reason for our owner release. Now, it's got 12 on there, so I'm thinking this slide is probably the older slide for some reason, because it's got the 8 aggressions, and the cat was because the cat was sick and got hospitalized. And then the 3 that the dog, they just didn't want the dog anymore. So 8 of them were aggressive, and they couldn't keep the dogs because they were too aggressive. So our court cases for December, this is correct. We did not have any court cases for December at all.
Mary Lou,
Yes, sir.
the 3 dogs that were turned in because the owners wanted to get rid of them, were they senior dogs?
They didn't give an age. They were just, they just say they just did not want the dog anymore. They didn't give an age or anything why. I'm not sure what was going on with it. They didn't give any further information on that.
Did anybody observe the temperament of the dogs once they came into the shelter?
I'm not sure if the shelter did or not. It wasn't reported back to us on that. So going on to the court.
Excuse me, Ms. Ward. Mr. Thacker, do you have any information regarding Mr. Allen's question?
I do not off the top of my head. Something I'd have to look into.
Okay, thank you. Proceed, Ms. Ward.
Okay.
Because
Going on.
I mean, if you go on Facebook and you get a lot of stories about dogs being turned in, they generally supposedly get very depressed. And
Right. Yeah, I have not heard. Our office has not heard any more about that.
Thank you, Ms. Ward. Mr. Jimenez, Officer Jimenez, do you have a comment?
No, ma'am, I sure don't. I'm not on that one.
Okay, great. I just wondered because your name came up on the screen. Thank you. Proceed, Ms. Ward.
Okay. So as I was saying, we had 0 cases for December for court, which is kind of unusual for us because we're usually in court a lot, or at least in the virtual court these days a lot. But we didn't have anything that showed up for the month of December for our animal control officers, that is. And nothing for our additional information on the court cases. And then a SNAP reports. This is what we got from the SNAP office. So I added that in there. We had 30 dogs reported spay or neutered, 18 cats, 29 microchips, and 30 rabies vaccinations, which gave us our year to date, which was 61 dogs spayed or neutered, 114 cats spayed or neutered, 141 microchips, and 133 rabies vaccinations completed by the SNAP with the county's free spay and neuter program. And for that, I'll stand for any questions.
Are there any questions for Ms. Ward? I don't see any hands up. I have a question regarding the spaying and neutering and just that last slide that you put up. Do privately run veterinarian services, do they report anything to the county or to the city, to the animal shelter, ASCMV? Do you know? Or Mr. Thacker? That's probably a question for you.
Madam Chair, can you rephrase the question again? Were you asking about if we get county?
No. If veterinarians, a private practice, sends their stats to you, to the center, or to the county somehow, is that any of that captured? Any of those stats captured?
So you're asking if the local veterinarians are reporting their sterilization numbers to the center?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
No, we do not get any of that information, no.
Oh, okay. Would it be helpful to have that kind of information so far as what our populations are doing? How our animal populations?
I believe Ms. Quintero is waving her hand frantically.
Yes, Ms. King.
Yes.
I saw that, but I didn't see her little blue hand over. Yeah, I have my eyes go in one direction. Even though I have 2 eyes, they both go in the same direction. I mean, who knew?
We have the SNAP contract, and what we get at the end of every month is a list of all the dogs or cats who have been spayed or neutered through the voucher process. We also know who the vets are, but these are only reported as to the individuals who have gotten a voucher through SNAP. So we have some idea of what's happening out there, but if a private individual brings their animal to a vet to be spayed and neutered, we would never get that reporting, only the reporting that comes through the contract on the SNAP vouchers.
I see. Okay. I see. So if the animal's a SNAP recipient, then you do get that.
Yes, we do.
Because then the doctor lets you know that they performed the procedure.
That's correct.
Thank you, Ms. Quintero. So we do have some reporting in that regard. It'd be good to distinguish. Ms. Ward, I do have a question or a request. As you may know, we have a new member on the board, and that's Mayor Trujillo from Las Cruces, who's also a commissioner for the county of Doña Ana. Do you have a map of the districts so that we can see where they are? Because you did have stats for the districts, but there wasn't a map matching the districts. So do you have that available? Or could you just maybe verbally tell us which district she would fall into?
Yes, and I have the map. When I sent out the explanation of the geo districts, that's the one that I sent with the statistics. So I'm not sure where Commissioner Trujillo, where she falls under that on the districts. So like District 1 for us.
Anthony.
In Anthony? Okay.
Yeah.
So in Anthony, looking at that, at the geo districts, that would be District 5, which cover the Anthony Barrino area. Because some of these districts, as we covered before, they mesh together, so they overlap. Because when we get our statistics and we get dispatched, we go through the same geo districts that the 911 call center does and the sheriff's department. So that's how our stats come in. And so that's how we keep them. So when we try to break them up, it's really hard to break them up by commissioner district because they overlap a lot. So a lot of times our statistics might be like if I try to go into like our District 3, which is Oregon, White Sands Missile Range, East Mesa, and Butterfield, and then we go into the commissioner districts, they might overlap each other. So that's why we try to just break it up by the geo districts. It's a little bit easier that way, and we don't want to count statistics twice. But that's the District 5. If she looks at our District 5 stats, that would count the Barrino and Anthony area on those stats for her.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very helpful, Ms. Ward.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? I do have my screen where I can see raised hands, and I don't see any. Thank you again, Ms. Ward.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The next presenter is Officer Gino Jimenez for the City of Las Cruces.
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning.
Let me pull it up and we will start. Come on. There we go. There we go. Is it starting from the beginning? Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Gino Jimenez. I am the Animal Control Supervisor for the City of Las Cruces. I am going to present to you our December 2020 numbers. For the month of December 2020, we responded to 403 stray calls. 227 of those were GOA, meaning the officer did not have contact with that animal. We were able to apprehend a total of 173 animals. 148 of those were impounded at the Animal Service Center. 85 were dogs, 63 were cats. We were also able to successfully field RTO 28 dogs back to, or animals back to their owners. 11 of those, which we were unsuccessful in our field RTOing, went to the Animal Service Center, and those are included in our impound numbers. So we also had a total of 39 identifiable animals. So here is our reported stray calls in a 3-year comparison. Again, this finished off the year. So for December, we had 403 stray animal calls. For the year, that gave us 5,056 reported stray calls. And you can tell that those numbers are significantly lower than 2019 and 2018. Next slide is a 3-year comparison of our field RTO rate. Again, we finished off the year in December, we had 28. So that gave us a total of 378 for the year, which is a little bit lower than 2019 and tremendously lower than 2018. This is one number that we've always wished that we could always increase. But if you look at across the board, we're still pretty consistent. Our numbers are consistent month to month. So here are the reasons we were unable to field RTO animals. 7, microchips were not registered or updated. 2, there was no answer on the phone or at the residence. 1, we were unable to contact the chip company, and 1 was a welfare hold, meaning that dog was going, even though it had information of who the dog owner is, because of the circumstances of the conditions that dog was in, it had to go to the Animal Services Center for the benefit of the animal. Finally, this is a number that we were happy with this last month. We had 0 owner-released animals. 0 animals came from the citizens to us, to the center. As we all know, during COVID, we've always been trying to only impound animals that are a threat to public safety or safety to the animal or to the owners, or also any animal that is sick or injured. And last month, this is our first 0. So that was a good one for us. So here is the next slide is a screenshot of the map. And let me bring up the map itself. Madam Chair, can you see my map?
Yes, yes, I can. I think we all can, Gino.
Okay. So call volume wise, December was a pretty slow month for us. So you'll see that there's not as much activity as there has been in previous months. If there is any particular area that anybody on the board would like me to zoom in on, I can do so at this time.
Mr. Jimenez, Officer Jimenez, would you please explain, I'm just asking people for our new member, Mayor Trujillo. Could you please explain what those dots mean and then maybe amplify it as you have shown us before? If you could just, we understand, I mean, those of us who have been on the board at least a year now, but I just like everybody to be literally on the same page.
Madam Chair, absolutely. Board Member Trujillo, what you see here, let me zoom out just a little bit. What you see here is the different color-coded districts, councilman districts. So if we zoom in a little bit, you will see that there are 3 different markers. There are the orange markers, which represent cats, the blue markers, which represent dogs, and let me find a red marker. Maybe there's not any.
You've had some in the past.
Here's one. The red marker here represents an other. An other could be anything from a skunk to a javelina to a squirrel, a rat, anything other than a dog or a cat. So you'll see that my map is marked with the different council districts. And if you click on it, it will give you exactly who the councilman is. Now, and this is similar to what Mary Lou was saying earlier. We are dispatched by police beats, which are different than council districts. Fortunately, I was able to work with the GIS department, and we worked this out to only get council districts. So if our reporting is different, so all I did was take the address and inputted it into that council district. And I'll slowly pan around so that if there's any questions, an area of interest becomes a concern, just let me know and I'll zoom in on it.
Are there any questions?
Yes, Madam Chair. I believe myself and Mayor Pro Tem have their hands raised.
Okay. Do you know well, since you're on the screen and I can see you, proceed, Councilor Abeyta-Stube.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Gino, for this. I'm going to ask about the cat issues. I know my district has been having some of those kind of hotspot areas. I know we were talking about, I think it was around Corbett. We had some issues, and then I'm noticing we have a couple of the cats around Espina again. And so I'm just, are we staying consistent with the same areas that we're having these issues with the cats?
Yes, ma'am. And excuse me, Madam Chair, Councilman Abeyta-Stube, let me zoom in on that area. And you'll know that from last month, in the month of November, I should say, to December, that number has significantly dropped. So I zoomed in on that area, and you can see that we've only impounded 5 last month. Whereas in November, I think it was up to 23 or 17, I think something like that. So it seems that we have taken, gotten a little bit more control over that area over the last month.
Okay. And then with that, is that perhaps, is it a person that has kind of collected the cats and we're just trying to get those back? Because I know there was neighbors around the area that were very concerned. A couple of those animals, they said, look, they were in distress.
Well, initially what happened on that case, ma'am, is that right before COVID hit, the neighbor came up, the complainant, or where we were picking up the majority of the cats, came up and said that his neighbor was feeding cats, which is totally a violation of the ordinance right now. It's considered harboring, and there are no feral cat colony permits going out, and we have no registered feral cat colonies within the entire city. So he made a complaint that somebody was feeding the cats and they were coming into his property and defecating and urinating it on his lawn. All he wanted at that time was for us to ask them to stop. We did so. We educated the person that was feeding the cats, and they agreed to stop. However, another individual from an outside of the neighborhood continued to feed the cats. So we really the cats never really went away. The original complainant called back and said, "Hey, I can't handle this anymore. My wife has respiratory issues, and these cats defecating and urinating in my yard are aggravating her health concerns or issues." And at that time, he asked for a trap, and we did loan out a trap to him, and we started trapping the cats. However, then COVID hit, and we stopped our trapping. We stopped loaning out our traps, and he has since purchased one of his own, and we will still pick up cats trapped in privately owned traps.
Okay.
And that's where we stand on that case.
Okay. Thank you. And then with obviously all these cats right here on Orbit, they all seem to be within one residence. Is that something that you said that there was about 23 in the other area. Now this month there's only about 5. So I'm assuming we've had contact with the owner to come into compliance with that.
Well, these were just stray cats.
Okay.
So they weren't owned.
Okay. Did we find out why they were congregating in that area then?
Because the neighbor across the street was feeding them.
The neighbor, okay. And, okay. And thank you. I think that is all my comments for now. Chair Flores.
And thank you, Councilor Abeyta-Stube. Mayor Pro Tem Ganda?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Gino, for the presentation. Always appreciative, and I'm really always very impressed with this RGPS system here. I think to piggyback on Councillor Beta Stuvey's questions, I think my district found the cats because I have had an increase of calls. Not a day goes by that I'm not hearing from a constituent in two areas, the Mesquite Historic District and now Kilmer. And I see them on Juniper. There's at least 3 or 4, a gray, a brown cat that's frequenting the Juniper area as well. And so I appreciate Councillor Madam Chair's comments about, when we will see what we'll see, because right now we're not registering the cat colonies. And I think probably because Gino is familiar and has been around and has the history, is aware of where many of them are. But this issue really needs to come to council quickly. I think we're getting quite a bit of negative press about that sunset, right, clause, if you will, and all the various things that come with that. So my question is, are you seeing an increase in those areas? I know I'm sending quite a bit of emails back to you all, and you're going out there and trying to find out and educate as much as you can, but it's a huge nuisance.
Madam Chair, Mayor Pro Tem Gandara, yes, we, as a matter of fact, are seeing a tremendous increase in complaints about cats. And I believe this is because during the pandemic, we have really, one of the services that we had to cut so that we would not expose ourselves to potential COVID citizens, or vice versa, so that we aren't exposing the citizens to us who we don't know may be positive as well. That service was our traps. So we have stopped our trap program. However, we will still pick up traps from privately owned individuals. We will still pick up cats from privately owned traps. That word is, I'm getting tongue-tied.
It's all right. That's a hard thing to say several times. So try to say that 3 or 4 times fast.
But so because our traps aren't so readily available, there are people out there that can't afford to purchase their own traps, and they were pretty dependent on our programs. So therefore, we're not helping them out right now. And we'll see that there's an increase in stray cat calls. It is the reason that we also stopped it too, is because the center asked us to stop taking in or to reduce the number of animals to the center as we possibly could. And again, we could understand that aspect as well, because again, we want to limit the amount of exposure to everybody as we possibly can. So you're right that this needs to go to council as quickly as possible so that it can be resolved either one way or the other, whether we go through with community cats or we go back to how it was and we stop and we start addressing these complaints head on again.
So Gino, when you say addressing those complaints head on again, what would that consist of? Because I guess I'm trying to find so I understand about the safety, and I have a meeting today with our city manager. So I understand. I want to protect you. I want to protect the public, but I do think that you can issue out traps, leave them at the door, pick them up at the door, where you reduce the face-to-face with the resident completely. And I think we're there. We need to do something different, because I'm not even certain that the registering of a cat colony, I think is helpful, and maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't even know if we have the documentation, right? Because we all agreed that we should have been documenting and sort of managing that information so that we had something, right, to really see, is this working? Right? Is this really working? So I guess my question is to you, what were you doing before? Like when you, just exactly what your comment was. What were you doing before, and did you feel that it works? Because I'm hearing from a lot of constituents that the ACOs are saying, and I quote, someone higher up wants these cats to wants it this way. And I've heard it from several constituents. And so I know that the ACOs are saying something like that. And, I don't want to be hypercritical because we're all trying to work and to reduce this. But I just want to make sure that the communication is going up and down and that we're doing what we can. To me, not doing anything is not a good strategy. Right? We have to do something. And right now, because between now, March, April is a long time. And I'm getting in, and I'm fine about getting the calls. I address them, but I keep getting the same response back from Deputy Chief Carrie Daines and others, right? And it's because of the sunset clause and all the other things that are happening. And we just can't be okay with that anymore. I think we need to push a little harder and do some things differently from the city's perspective.
Madam Chair, Mayor Pro Tem Gandara, and I agree with you. I think COVID changed a lot for everybody.
Yeah.
It changed a lot of our practices. A lot of our services were cut, I think. And who did it affect? It affected the community. It affected the citizens that were dependent and that relied on the services that they were accustomed to 20 years ago, 25 years ago. They were used to getting a trap from us, and they were used to taking the nuisance cats out of their yard by animal control. But because of COVID, we stopped that. And we did it for two parts. Like I said, number one, exposure, citizens to officer, officer to citizen. And also because it was a request from the center to not bring in as many animals as we had in the past, to also reduce their exposure from staff to citizen and citizen to staff. We are tossing the ball up in the air, saying, should we go back to what our services were in 2018 or 2019? And give the citizens back that services that they pay for. If we do, then it's going to put the center in a bind because their numbers are going to skyrocket according to what we impounded in 19 and 20. So there's got to be a balance there somewhere that we still enforce and we still pick up the animals that we are obligated to pick up. And then the balance with the center being able to manage those numbers and that the amount of contact that they may have with the citizens.
Sure. I understand, Gino, and I understand everybody's plight and everybody's hands that are tied. I feel like we just have to get to the table. And maybe what my recommendation will be is to call a task force meeting, through the city and get really talk. I mean, we've been talking about this. This is not new stuff. We've been talking about it. But I don't talk to the other counselors about, I knew Counselor Vasquez because he has said it publicly and people have come to public comment to, last year it was a problem in his district. I don't know if it continues to be, but I know at least hearing Counselor Abeyta-Stuvey here at the center's board meeting, that it's a problem there, and it's a huge problem in my district now, and I feel like we need to do something quickly. I read all the documents, all the scientific literature. We've gone over it. I know that we have several people in several different camps recommending different things. I know Jean is very concerned about euthanasia, but what we're hearing from Clint is that they euthanize animals that are sick, you know, and have done, you know, quite a bit to try to, you know, to remedy the situation. But also, so there has to be all these tools, euthanasia being one of them, right? We're all in agreement. I think that that's what it is as disheartening as that might be for all of us. For me, I don't want to sound like I'm heartless, because I'm not. But it's going to take a number of things and a number of resources from the city of Las Cruces as well. And so I'm happy. That's what I'm recommending, is that the task force we schedule something that, next month, so that we can continue the discussions and do some more immediate stuff. And in the meanwhile, I know Assistant City Manager Enriquez is on, and I'd like for him to weigh in on this, have a conversation. We need to do something, because this is again, every day I'm receiving phone calls, emails, pictures, and you're in turn receiving all of those, Gino, as well. So I don't want to belabor it. I just know we need to do something quickly.
If I could insert something, Councillor Gandara, I'd like to say that if you're talking about the task force, the coalition has proposed a resource committee be established for community cats. We know that catch and kill does not work. The research shows that that will not control numbers. And like you were referencing, yes, we do know that euthanasia is necessary and is part of the toolkit, but it is truly a toolkit of multi-approach. And I know I'm a colony manager. I've been taking care of community cats going into four years now. So I do know it firsthand. And I do know that the TNR works. And there are advocates out there like myself who are willing to lend resources to help and to hopefully make this as humane as possible. And I urge the city councilors to adopt the ordinances we've proposed, and as the task force has worked on it, because it does include help for community cats. Anyway, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gilbert. Mayor Pro Tem, were you done with your comments?
I was, Madam Chair. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Does anybody else have any comments on this particular issue? My participants bar isn't up. It just goes down.
Madam Chair, I have one follow-up.
Yes, Councilor Abeyta-Stube.
Thank you. And, you know, this is coming from not quite new anymore, but it is a newer issue for me with the community cats. And one of the items I think for the groups to recognize, and the biggest problem that I've seen with my constituents, and it's very heartbreaking. I have a very aged area, and I have seniors that are at their wits' ends with the property damage that the cats have been doing to their home. And they're not the owners of these cats. They don't want to own a colony. They are, they're trying to figure out what to do with this situation and being humane. But the fact of the matter is they're kind of these bystanders for this issue. And that's something that we need to consider. And I think everybody knows that I am absolutely an animal lover, advocate. I have cats myself. I truly value their companionship and all that they bring and want to see these things. But I'm very, very concerned, especially if we adopt these types of resolutions. What happens with these seniors and what happens with the property damage? We may still have people that own these colonies, but when we have this others, are they going to pay for damages that might happen, what types of assistance are we bringing to these other families? And that's something that if we have these task force, if the animal activists want to be able to do this type of thing, how are we going to address that problem, especially for these vulnerable communities that have limited incomes, that have health issues, and frankly don't have necessarily the mobility to be able to chase the cats, get the cats, or manage that sort of situation. So it's just something to think about in the future. But as we're at the beginning of with some of these conversations, I just want to make sure that we're thinking of that aspect as well. Thank you.
And thank you, Councilor Beta-Stuvey. Anybody else want to comment on this issue?
Madam Chair, I believe Clint has his hand up.
Oh, thank you. Yes, Mr. Thacker.
Just really quick, I'd like to give kudos to the county because Ms. Quintero contacted me about some options that the county could do. The actual officers going out with these cats, and I put her in touch with some people at Best Friends Animal Society. The county sent, I'm sorry, Best Friends sent the county education material in English and Spanish, and they also were able to raise funds via Facebook to get the cat deterrents sent, and these are actually going to the officers, and the officers are going to be giving this information and the deterrents out to these individuals. I mean, it's a program that if we're all going to work together and have the same vision, then we definitely can get some headway on it and get relief to these individuals that are having problems with cats. Believe me, I'm no stranger to individual or problem with cats. I have it at my house, and everybody does, but I know that these animals are there because they were abandoned by us, and that this is now a community issue, not just a one-on-one, and community being the city as well. So I just wanted to let you know that there's other things going on here than just complaints. There's also successes as well.
Mr. Thacker, with all due respect, what are the outcomes of the distribution of information? I mean, you seem to say that the distribution of written information and education in the community is wonderful, but what is the consequence? What is the outcome of that? Do we have
not only the education material, the written material that talks about feral cats and what they're attracted to and what they're not attracted to, some natural deterrents to keep them off out of your area, but also the actual deterrents, the physical deterrents, the ultrasonics, the scarecrow sprinkler, all of these are supplied for free. And yes, on a limited basis, but we can get the biggest issues taken care of.
Well, I think, I'm taken aback by the fact that the resolution is now being drafted by legal. And it's true that we did, I participated in that task force over a period of 2 years, maybe more. And we met regularly on, I think, once a month on late Friday afternoons. And then this past year, prior to Dollahan retiring, the meetings sort of were kind of yes, kind of no. And then finally there were no meetings. So, and we did get a copy of maybe, I think, I'd have to go back and look at it. And then, of course, we have to compare it to what the resolution is going to say. But, these meetings lasted, and I don't know if David Dollahan set them up purposely for late afternoon on Friday so that they wouldn't go on until midnight. But some of these meetings were quite lengthy and very thorough. All sides were presented, people who were experts in the field of birds and the impact of cats on birds. All of that was visited and revisited and talked about and discussed, the pros, the cons, the ones who are anti this or anti that. But I think that all of us, I believe, shared a common goal of being humane And humaneness doesn't only extend to the life of the feral cat, but those in the community who are affected. And as Councilor Abeyta-Stube pointed out, an elderly community is direly affected. Anyone who doesn't have the capacity, either financially to trap their own cat or to be able to go out there and implement all these features that may scare off the cats, that's a humane issue. And as Officer Jimenez pointed out, there's been, I do see, well, we don't get a lot of feral cats into the center anymore, but I do, and that's based on direction by Director Thacker. But I do see in our daily reports, we get them in the morning and we get them in the evening, they do put down feral cats. So some cats are coming in, very few, but some cats do get turned into the center and then they're put down, they're PTS. So I would like to see that resolution, and Mayor Pro Tem Gandara, since you're meeting with City Manager Ifo Pili, would you please ask him to have at least a draft of the resolution sent to us as a board to look at it? And yes, I agree with you, Mayor Pro Tem Gandara, that we really need to have a task force meeting again, specifically on the resolution, the final or proposed, or maybe the final draft, which is still a proposed resolution for the board to look at. And if Mr. Enriquez, if you can facilitate that, we really need to discuss it as a board, and we need to discuss it as a task coalition. So those are two different meetings. Board members can attend all, well, no, we have to be careful about that because of the open meetings. But I suppose if they're noticed, appropriately, will be okay. Yeah. So that's after. But this is very concerning to me in so many ways. And I applaud Jean Gilbert for her wonderful work. I know that she breaks down in tears at times and during her presentations, and I think we all do. I think we all love our little critters. And sometimes, well, let's just stop there. Let me stop there. I won't go any further. But anyway, I want to thank you all for your efforts and your comments. And if we could, we'll communicate later, Mayor Pro Tem Gandara, on this issue. And then we'll move forward.
Yes, Madam Chair, can I make one comment?
Absolutely.
I want to make sure, because we've had sort of institutional knowledge leave the city, but please remember, it should not get stuck in legal, because legal was a part of those meetings up until very recent. So everything that was, and Gino, you remember having, why am I escaping her name? Marcy, yes.
Oh, that's right.
Marcy there. And so it shouldn't take a long time. Because legal was there sort of helping us navigate, and then having both the ACOs, Doña Ana County and City there, they're well aware of the ordinances, the state law, all those things. So I just want to make sure that that's known up front, and that it shouldn't get tied up in that. And I know legal gets a bad rap because many times people say it's there when it's not there. So I just want to make sure that this is something that that is being done quickly, and that it gets to us because it's been a while now. Thank you.
And thank you again, Mayor Pro Tem. Yes, it's been quite a while, and a lot of this is definitely due to COVID, without a doubt. Some of it, and I'm only speaking on behalf of the city, a lot of it has to do with the turmoil of the turnover of city managers. It's been, I mean, between COVID and the city manager situation, which is now, I believe, and I pray that it is under control. We have an excellent city manager without par, without any reservation, I say that. And then we have Mr. Enriquez, who is also an excellent, without par asset to our board. So I think that we're going to be able to move in a way that is equitable to all concerned, the task force, this board, and did I say task board? Task force and this board, and all concerned. So,
Madam Chair, I believe Mr. Enriquez has his hand up.
oh, thank you. Yes, Mr. Enriquez, proceed.
Yes, Madam Chair and Board, thank you. Yes, I'm sending emails to legal right now as we speak to get some response, and they're sending some of the red lines and draft and things. So I assure you, I will be working on that personally to get that back up to speed, and working with Animal Control and Mr. Thacker to come to some resolutions, and we'll come back with some steps and some guidance so that we can move forward with this. So yes, this will be on the front burner, and we'll expedite as soon as we can. So thank you for your comments and the information, and you rest assured we'll get something done. You're muted, Madam Chair.
Oh man, I have to remember what I said now. Oh, no. Thank you, Mr. Enriquez. So I asked that Mayor Pro Tem and Mr. Thacker correct me if I'm wrong in this process, about what I'm proposing, about to ask. And I would like, Mr. Enriquez, thank you so much for being in immediate communication with legal. And yes, Mayor Pro Tem Ganda, absolutely correct. Legal gets the bad rap. We're told that things are in process, and then we find out they're not. So this is a question of really getting accountability, measured accountability, and I would like Mr. Enriquez and Mr. Thacker, if the board were to receive the update, and certainly before our next meeting, because our next meeting is late February. And so we need to do that ASAP. And if it's true that the resolution is going to be in a forthcoming work session in February, probably the city council meeting, like a month after that, really, it's like 3 weeks after that it will come before council for a full vote. So looking at the logistics and the timeline, we need to be updated all along. And in the meantime, too, Mayor Pro Tem and Mr. Enriquez, we definitely need to call a meeting of the task force ASAP. Mr. Thacker, everybody. If I'm out of line, if it's incorrect, if it's not appropriate, if it's not indicated, if it's somehow illegal in terms of what we're doing, please educate me. Otherwise, we should proceed.
Madam Chair, Clint Thacker here. I know that in the past, David Dallahan's office would take matters and schedule those meetings. Like
Yes.
you said, it was always the last Friday, I think at 3:30 p.m.
Yes.
So the board would have to, or sorry, the manager's office, if they'd like to take that on again and do the scheduling, that would be great.
Great. And
Madam Chair, I just sent an email to myself, you, Clint, and Mr. Enriquez to get those going again. If I can be of assistance, Amber was excellent at, Ms. Dominguez was excellent, and she has the email list and can get that together. I suggested to meet sooner rather than later because it would be a whole month.
Yes.
And maybe we need a more emergent like a meeting and then another one in the last month. And that's what I'm asking for. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem, for doing that. So hopefully we can have a meeting as soon as probably next Friday. Since that was what everybody was used to, late afternoon. I wish it could be tomorrow, but that's not enough time. It's not fair. But next Friday is the best, would be the best time. So, and we would all have to prioritize this over, doing a TGIF type thing. Not that we can anyway. Our TGIF is ordering a pizza and watching an old movie on TV. At least that's my TGIF. So anyway, thank you all so much for your input on this. It's definitely urgent.
Madam Chair, this is Eric Enriquez again. Yes, I will work on that. I will get all the information from legal, and then we'll schedule a task force meeting on next Friday, a week from tomorrow.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Enriquez. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We were with Gino, right? We're still on item 4. This all came out of the ACO report. So, Mr. Jimenez, Officer Jimenez, are you done with your report?
I believe so, Madam Chair. We were actually right here talking about the map, and I think I had answered all the questions concerning the map. My next slide would have been questions, and we did that.
I think we did that. I think we did more than that. Thank you so much, Mr. Jimenez, and thank you so much, Ms. Ward, Mary Lou, and Gino, for your wonderful presentations and for your dedication in this work. Move on to Clint Thacker, item 4C, shelter statistics. Proceed, Mr. Thacker.
Okay, sorry about that. I always start my presentation before I unmute myself and start my camera, and then I get confused.
Welcome to my world.
My apologies. Today's directory report, me, Clint Thacker, Executive Director. We have a low count here at the animal shelter, 332 currently. It's been a good relief to have that low number, and we were able to get other things done. Especially the intake has been great. 417 total, and that's 271 dogs and 145 cats coming to the shelter. So you can see it's quite a bit lower than the intake of 2019. We had some returns in 2020. In December of 2020, we had 5 behavior problems come through, and then 2 adopter lifestyle changes. What those 2 means is behavior problems could be anything from, having problems potty training to being like Big Boy was of too much dog. And then lifestyle changes could be anything from a divorce to having a kid or a child now in the home. So several different scenarios. Again, we always offer, for behavior problems, we offer the training that's available. And we also offer tips. We have flyers that we can give. So we do try our best to keep these animals into these homes. And the individuals that really want animals, that honestly, they love the animal, they want to be in the home, but there are these issues, then they'll give it a try and try to get these through the different means that we give them. So 7 is pretty good. So our outcomes for 2020, remember just the numbers were causing us to have a little bit of concern. Like we could see 335 adoptions in 2019 compared to 209. So we were worried about that number, so we changed it to percentage because we have less animals coming in, right? So actually that 209 is a better percentage of the animals leaving the center than we had in 2019. So that's good. Half of our outtake was adoptions. Reclaims, we had 63, so 15% of our outcomes were redeemed. Reclaimed means redeemed by the owner. Rescued, we still have a fabulous number of 38% going out rescued. 158 is the number. Community cats that were returned, 17. So 10%, and again, that's even higher than 2019 was. And then euthanasia, is all the way down to 12.5%. And I can contribute that to the incredible team we have working incredibly hard with our rescues. And we were able to reach that 90% benchmark that qualifies as no kill. So in December 2020, we qualified as a no kill shelter for that month. So that was big. And that, I can't say enough for the staff, again, the rescues, everybody working really hard. That's always our benchmark that we're trying to hit. And as you can see, it's 10% higher than it was in December 2019.
Wow.
So these are our reasons for euthanasia. This is always a concern for us. We keep an eye on this as well as the board does as well. So again, our number one reason are those feral cats that are coming in. We've had a long discussion about those today, but they continue to come in. Medical, general are the next ones, and then severe injuries, aggressive dog. These are animals that we feel that are not safe to go back out to the community. And then more injuries, hit by a car, things that we just don't have the capacity to care for, or that would be best for the animal to be euthanized as well. And then it goes down from there into the ones category for that. So our total visitors in December was 570, and that compared to the 2,948. So this next, we continue to see this number. We need to do a graph similar to the ones you're going to see before of where that number actually is. What value does it have? Is it going up? Is it going down? And again, it's so low for those who are seeing for the first time. 570 is so low compared to the 2,900 below because with COVID, we had to shut our lobby down to just being open where people can come in. So they had to call ahead, they have to get an appointment, and only 2 people are allowed at a time. Before, we were counting everybody in the party that would just come and look at our adoptable animals. So that's why the big difference in that number. So this is a new slide, new information put together. I think it tells the story a little bit better. Before, we were just getting a number of our web page views, and we didn't know if that number was high or low or if there's a trend. So as you can see, we started tracking in August of 2020, and it goes up and down quite a bit, but we're seeing kind of that mean norm that was right through here in that 44,000 area of of web page views. So we like that they're getting hit pretty hard. And again, for those seeing for the first time, a web page view is not a web page hit where it's that many times being opened. Web page view is the number of times pages are viewed on our website. So if somebody comes into the website, that just hitting or arriving at the homepage is one view. And if they want to look at an adoptable dog, that's another view. And if they click back and look at another dog, that's another view. So it's counting the number of pages being looked at. But 46,534 is our highest yet, and in the month of December. And I'm pretty sure that contributed to our high adoption rate and also our live release rate that was high. Facebook views, we did the same thing. We just tried to do a trend showing you where it's at, and it's holding pretty steady in that 2,500 area for an average. And then these are our pets of the week. We have Rhea, Corvid, and then Antler. Corvid, this is actually the first one that we've done with it's a couple, but Corvid is kind of a high stress little pooch, and we found that Rhea really calms him down. So we want them to go out together. So they rely on each other. So those are our animals of the week. Any questions?
Any questions, anybody, for Mr. Thacker? There's my bar. I don't see any hands.
Yes, Madam.
Yes, Abeta Stuvey, Councilor Abeta Stuvey.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Clint, for those stats. I have to ask because December is also, since you have the holidays, and I know there is a trend to have, a gift as a pet. Do we have any of the stats about what types, if we do see an increase of returns, either 8 weeks to 4 months out, if we see any little spikes after, you know, the responsibility of an animal, the novelty and all that sort of stuff, kind of works off if we see any of spikes within those returns right after the holidays.
I think with the way that we were doing it, we might see those spikes, you know, with people before COVID just coming in and adopting. I think now we're doing it with the adoption or with the appointment method. It gives us more time to talk with the individual, the potential adopter. We don't necessarily track if an animal was adopted on this month, then how long it takes to if it returns. That would be interesting to know and to see. So maybe we'll try tracking that when it comes down, you know, April or sometime, if these animals that were returned were adopted back in December. But we'll definitely keep an eye on that.
Okay. And I know that when we were working with the advertisement company, and we had talked about that, about responsible, if we were going to have any sort of messages or things about just responsible ownership, you know, a pet is for a lifetime type of deal, at least maybe even after, since we've probably had, you know, that increase in adoptions.
We did. It was Wilson Binkley who's our advertising agency, and we did some Facebook spots during the pandemic that were just specifically stating, you know, the animals are for life, they're a commitment type of thing. But we have since shifted and getting ready for kitten season, focused more on leave the litter alone. We have that great radio spot with Captain Kitten, I think it was, or Captain Kit, something like that. But that's the shift that we've done.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And thank you, Madam Chair.
And thank you, Abeda, Councilor Abeda Stubbe. Thank you, Mr. Thacker. Any other questions for Mr. Thacker? Yes, Mayor Murillo. I see your hand up.
Yes, ma'am. For Mr. Madam Chair, for Mr. Thacker, I have a question. I know that I represent the constituents inside the city limits and outside the city limits of Anthony. I know our animal control officer had asked me if I knew about some of the cats that are picked up, you know, Mr. Salazar picks up and takes them to the shelter, right? And then they're back in population. And I wanted to see if you can be able to explain to me why does that happen? And, you know, so I can have a more understanding.
Absolutely. So the county allows us to do, it's called a trap, neuter, return program, a TNR. You hear that quite a bit in these meetings. We had a great discussion about it with community cats. And community cats is a general term used to describe cats that have no owners, that are they don't have to be feral or wild, they just don't have an owner. And with the trap, neuter, return program, what we do is we bring these cats that come in, and if they're healthy and able to return back, they have to qualify for the program. Then they are sterilized, so they're not going to cause any of the spraying issues or the marking, and they're not mating, not reproducing. They're given vaccines, so they're healthy, a rabies vaccine and the feline vaccines. And then the tip of their ear is cut off, and that tells anybody that the animal has been through the system, it is sterilized, and it is vaccinated. And then that animal is released back out in the area that it was in. And I know that sounds odd to take this quote unquote problem that people didn't want and to put it back out. But what you're actually doing is the area can withstand a certain number of animals. Let's say it's 10. And if we take the way, the old way would be take 5 out and euthanize them. Well, 5 more are going to automatically come in and be in that area, because that area can sustain 10 animals. It has food, water, and shelter for that many animals. But if we take it and we trap those 5, we sterilize them, vaccinate them, and then ear tip them and put them back out, then 5 more unsterilized animals are not going to come in. That 5 has been held by those animals that are healthy, and they're not going to produce. So the trick is we can get all the animals in the area, or as many as possible, all the cats in the area, sterilized. Then we're able to have a much healthy, I could call it a herd, or a much healthy area of animals. And they do a lot less things, like they're not mating, they're not screaming at night, they're not marking territory, all those things. So and then also what it does is it allows the center or the animal shelter not to have to be euthanizing these cats that are there because they got dumped there. It's not their fault. So we're having the compassion side for that. So that's the program. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Ellens. Lynn?
Oh, when you showed the statistics earlier, there was a very high rate of euthanasia for feral cats. In fact, the bar went all the way to the ceiling practically. How does that fit in with what you just described in terms of the TRN program?
Well, those cats that are being euthanized are city cats because there's no current program in the city for trap, neuter, return, TNR. So those animals are held here at the center for the 3-day period, and then they're euthanized.
So the TNR program is a county program. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, the county the ordinance allows us to do the program in the county, yes.
What is this is addressed, I guess, to the city council members. What is the plan for the city to allow TNR?
The ordinance that we've been talking about includes that TNR program in the ordinance.
The proposed ordinance.
Yeah.
Let's be clear, there was the TNR, there was a sunset clause to it. So I don't want people to think that we weren't doing TNR, we were.
Yeah.
So there was a sunset clause, so it went out of effect?
It's going out.
Yes, that's correct. I don't know, it happened before my time, Lynn, I don't know that.
Is there a plan to?
You're muted, Mr.
Is there a plan to resurrect?
Is it fair to say we're in a transition period right now, waiting on city legal to look at the ordinance, which Mr. Enriquez has said that they're giving more urgency to that right now?
Yes, Commissioner Ellens, the conversation or the dialogue we had earlier had to do with the fact that that as we were moving through re-examining our ordinances, that was one of the considerations. And while that happened, the sunset happened. And so, we went through the process of public comment and getting all the information from the public. I think the dialogue is that I don't think it should get stuck in legal because we had legal representation at those task force meetings. So it should be rather quick that we present it to council and they vote on it. And I'll have to tell you, the task force and people in the advocacy world need to do some work with the counselors because I'm not sure that that's going to pass.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you, Cassandra. But I do believe that there are the resources in the community. And if we would establish a resource team, resource committee, and I said, I speak from experience. I've been a colony manager nearly 4 years now, and I can tell you it works. My cats have been TNR'd. The population has stayed stable. There've been, some newcomers, but it's been handled. They've been either TNR'd or placed in a home, various things. So I speak from experience that TNR works and we can make it happen. Here, catch and kill is not the answer, as Clint explained how those populations can remain stable if it's done right with colony managers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gilbert. Mayor Trujillo, do you have another comment or question? I see your hand up.
I'm sorry, I didn't lower it down. Sorry. No, I don't have a question.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there anything else that we should, I think we're done with this issue at this point and we should move on. Or is there anything urgent someone wants to say? No? Okay. Next item is, well, we're still on the same item. Item 4, reports presentation, subsection D, committee reports. The first one is finance. Councilor Abeyta-Stube, do you have a report? Is there a report this month?
Thank you, Chair. Actually, it is going to come from our new chair, which is Mr. Enriquez. Per our JPA, the ex officio member from the city does become the chair. So with him now in process, he is now going to give the report.
Great.
Okay, Madam Chair and Councilor Stube, I was not prepared or aware of that title or responsibility, but I believe we have Josh available. Josh, you can present the financial presentation, or do you have anything?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Josh Saffel, and on behalf of the Finance Department of the City of Las Cruces, I would like to present the unaudited financials as of December 31st, 2020. Looking here, we have the statement of net positions. We see in the general fund cash of $822,188, receivables of $93,491, which gave us total assets of $916,479. We have liabilities of $64,890 and revenue collected in advance of $55,501. So this left in the general fund an unassigned fund balance of $796,088. Looking at our capital projects fund, we had cash of $29,798 and a restricted fund balance in the same amount of $29,798. For capital assets, we had capital assets net of accumulated depreciation of $202,874 and the same amount, $202,874, as an unassigned fund balance in the capital asset fund. Looking at our changes in net position, in the general fund, we had total revenues of $1,831,918 and total expenditures of $1,207,578. So we had a total positive change to fund balance of $624,340. In the capital projects fund, there was expenditure of $1,767, which led to a negative net change in fund balance for capital projects fund of that amount of $1,767. And in the capital assets fund, no revenue, but there was expenditure, which was the depreciation expense of $21,115. So there was a negative net change to the fund balance in that fund of $21,115. Looking at our budget to actual, the revenue of $1.8 million was 53.8% of the budget, and the expenditure of $1.2 million was 35.9% of the budget. Considering that we're halfway through the year here at the end of December, our budget parameter would be about 50%. So we're still doing pretty well, with revenues being well above that, and our expenditures being lower than that was also very good. Looking at the revenues and expenditures throughout the month, we see just sort of an interesting trend where we'll have revenues greater than expenses one month, then the next month the expenses come up. And so this month we had revenues greater than the expenses, which was good. Looking at our total expenditures, $1,207,578. Of that, 76% of those expenditures were from personnel, 14% were from services, 6% supplies, and 3% insurance. 1% was repairs and maintenance. There were other expenditures, but statistically speaking, it came out to 0% of the total. And that will conclude my presentation. I stand for any questions.
Any questions? I don't see any hands up, Josh, Mr. Sappel, and I don't have any questions. Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Is the executive report. I'm the committee chair, and I met with our executive committee. I believe it was just Clint and I don't, Mr. Sanchez had a conflict, and I don't recall if Mr. Allen's, and I misplaced my notes, my very carefully taken notes. So what I do recall is that we discussed the joint powers agreement, and I've discussed moving forward with either a mutual or unilateral dissolution of the agreement with the city manager and of course with Mr. Thacker. We're moving forward with that. I don't know at what pace, and I'll have to either keep in touch with Mr. Thacker and of course our city manager. There was another concern that we discussed, and I don't remember, Clint. I think that you are going to cover the, well, can you, Mr. Thacker, do you recall the meeting we had? And I'm so sorry, I just don't have my notes, but I do recall.
You're gonna make me remember what we talked about. I see. I know we discussed things we're going to talk about today, and that is the resolution 2021-2 is an adoption fee schedule change. We discussed that at length in that committee. We also talked about the new building and the progress it's going.
Yes.
So a quick, well, maybe I'll leave that for facilities. It's more of a facilities thing, but I'll just say it's moving forward. And then for the sake of time, I think that's probably it.
Yes, for the sake of time, because it's already 11 o'clock. So it's been a very good meeting. And I don't know, usually they run an hour and a half, sometimes it's long, but there was a lot. But anyway, yes, the only, and I want to say that for the new building, there will be public art, and the city art board is working to get the art piece. There's a certain allocation of funds. I believe it's 4%. Anyway, there's a certain allocation of funds for city art, for city art. And
Less than 1%, I believe.
how much?
Less than 1%.
Yeah, it's small, but I think for the new shelter, it comes out to about, I don't know. It comes out to a chunk of change, enough so that the city art board can put out whatever. There's certain calls. They're called calls, cafe calls. So, and that's coming along beautifully. And this is as we all know or should know, the new center is a result of a GO bond, general obligation bond. And everything I think will be completed by September of 2022. Or it should be, I believe, because there's a certain requirement that things get done by a certain time when there's a bond. And as far as the, when we come to the resolution as to fees, you'll go thoroughly through that, correct, Mr. Thacker?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, okay, well then we'll just reserve anything and then, but yes, okay, thank you. So that's it on the executive report. Next item is item 4D, subsection 3. Mayor Pro Tem Gandara, do you have a report this month?
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we did meet and we got an update from Clint about the facility. And I'm trying to look through my notes because I did take notes. I believe the windows are all been, as you recall, there were issues with the windows and we have them all replaced, so all is well. We talked about the population there at the center. And that, as you know, and you've heard, it remains at a low. We did talk about the GEO bond and the updating, as you know, Councilor Flores and Madam Chair, we got an update as City Council on the GEO bond. At that point, Clint, I wasn't sure, you hadn't met yet with the individual responsible for it, and I didn't know if you had any updates related to that.
I do, and also to go back just really quick, we still have one window that we're working on getting replaced. So that's in the final stages. And then to address the GO bond, we had the SAC meeting. As you know, those are confidential. We had some great general contractors put some bids in. And talks have gone forward to finalize that. So we are in negotiations, is what they said I could tell you, for that. And we hope to award quickly for that and get things started. So that is moving forward. We're very excited for it.
Thank you. That's so excited. When do you think they'll start? Did they give you a bit of a deadline in terms of once all that is put together, when they might break ground?
No, well, they did in the bid, but as you know, there's so much groundwork that has to be done here and
Right.
relocation of lines that
Right.
It'll be a little while before the actual start of the building, but you'll see construction like dirt moving fairly quickly after the award.
That's great. I do want to alert the public and to refer them to our dashboard. You will be able to see weekly sort of where they're at with the process in terms of when the SAC meets, when the decision is made, when they've offered it to the engineers or to the company that will be doing the work, when the groundbreaking will happen. So those of you that are interested in wanting timely information, please go to our website at los-cruces.org, and you can enter in GeoBonds, and it'll give you a list of things that you can refer to moving forward. so that's it. Everything seems to be doing well in our facility. I know that Clint updated us on like the vacancies and where we are at with those. And I think and I hope that those of you that follow the Animal Services Center on social media, they have been advertising like our volunteer coordinator and other positions that are available at this point. And Clint seems to be feeling good about that. A lot of those positions, people were moving around into higher level positions, better paying positions. And so he feels that he had a hand in educating, providing supervision, mentoring, that kind of thing to his staff or former employees, enough that they've reached I think their goals there and wanted something different and more good paying jobs. So I don't think he's concerned of the number of vacancies there. It's just happens through attrition, and all are seeking better job opportunities. And with that, Madam Chair, I don't know if Glenn has anything else to add to that.
I do, just really quickly. We have our facilities committee in the early of the month and then the board meeting at the end. So things happen between then and then. Just a quick update. We had our medical surgery laundry just totally go kaput. I mean, it went out totally. So we were able to quickly purchase a brand new washer and dryer for our medical area. So we're grateful for that. We're grateful for building supply that gave us a great discount. We also were able to get some warranties on it as well, extended warranties, which really help out when we're using machines at that level. And also our purchasing is moving forward with the large washer and dryer, commercial washer and dryer for the center that we have budgeted for. So we're moving forward on that as well. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Just as curiosity, Mr. Thacker, and thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Cassandra Gandara. How much of those, did you say there were 2 sets of washer dryers?
There is, yeah, we have one regular set washer and dryer for the medical area, and then we have our really large commercial units. Okay. And can you just share with us what the price of those washer dryer commercial units cost? We budgeted $40,000 for those. Yeah, and $40,000 was actually spent? Well, we haven't bought them yet. Oh, I thought you're in the process of buying. Yeah, we've gone through city purchasing to make sure that there's no other. We put a request for bid out, and nobody else responded to that. And then Bernice is in the process of getting the purchase and the arrangements made to send in through a requisition. Great. If I recall, it's around $40,000, a little bit less. Yeah, I just wanted you to share that, because when I first came on the board and heard that there was this, for me, it's an astronomical amount. I mean, so it was like, what, 40,000? What do we do? And so thank you so much for sharing that, Mr. Clayton.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt. I found my notes and I wanted to add a couple of other things. Clint mentioned that his building supervisor is doing an excellent job. Paul Reeves, they call him Pablo because I think they have 3 other Pauls. Two other Pauls. But one of the things that, and I'm not sure if this is what you were talking about, but Clint, you explained that there needs to be some additional power run and that it was going to cost a little more, like I have her $6,000 to $7,000. Is that accurate? And you are unable to do that at this point, but we'll consider it in the new fiscal year?
That was to run power to our lot area where animals are. And yeah, that is just not in the budget right now, especially since those areas kind of where they're going to be going through is going to be taken out when the new center comes. So
Yeah.
Oh,
And then you spoke of, am I correct? It's like 6,000 to 7,000?
yeah, it cost, I think it was over $7,000 to run power over there.
So Clint, the power into that lot there, why is it important?
That's where our intake area is. So right now we're heating with propane. So we would just be able to use electric heat to keep the animals hot, and in the summer, hot, and in the summertime we'd have cooling opportunities there. So, and it's also nice to have extra light when we're dealing there in the later evening.
Right. And so I know 6,000 to 7,000 isn't a lot of money. Wondering if Mr. Enriquez and the county, I want to encourage the county because the city put forth quite a bit of additional funding to the center, and I knew there were some talks going to take place with the county to see that they match that. I'm not sure where that's at, but if that happens, some of these things could actually happen that I think are really important given we're in the winter, it's cold. And then when the summer months come, spring and summer, it's warm, and we need to make sure that our animals, and not only our animals, but our staff is taken care of, that they're in the best conditions that they can to work and to provide the environment, I think, necessary for our animals. So I wanna say that to Commissioner Allens, Sanchez, and Trujillo. Hope that there could be some continued conversations with that. And then lastly, we talked about the shed with the stucco that's looking pretty bad, and you're looking into storage containers, getting quotes from that. Clinton, I know that people are aware of that storage container, how it's looking. That area shed that's looking pretty bad. And that I want to assure folks that you're looking into it and making sure that we're accountable to that and have a plan of action of replacing those.
Yeah, actually we have.
Oh, good. See what happens within 30 days.
We're able to get a quote from a local place that has storage facilities. I wanted to stay here as close as possible. It was $6,800 for a new unit, the size that we needed. And I emailed Mike just this morning, our budget guy, Mike Fushini, and I think I saw a response from him. I haven't been able to see it yet. If that is something that we can get under our current budget, because we are, as you saw in the financial presentation, we do have a little bit of wiggle room to work with because we are underspent quite a bit. So it's just, something that we do. It's on our minds and we're looking at. And also to update you on the washer and dryer, Bernice just sent me a text. Thank you, Bernice, that they have been ordered, and it was just under $30,000.
wow, great. Happy news.
Yeah.
That you got a good deal on it, and they're being, you got
And then finally, as I mentioned with the vacancies, and as Clint put it, an exodus of employees, and I've explained, I think, why that has happened, and Clint's not too worried. There's a number of vacant positions that are at our human resources and just sort of stuck. And it's taken a considerable amount of time. And this is to my fellow city councilors. There needs to be some encouraging and some dialogue with our city manager. That process continues to be very delayed. I think the words are quote unquote a hellish process. So this shouldn't happen. We have given those positions. Will it be a year now? I don't know what the issues. 8 months?
Yeah, I mean, you're speaking of the veterinarian and the grant writer positions that were awarded to us. And and it's been a long time, and they've had it that whole time. There has been some recent, within the last probably 4 weeks, some good progress made, especially on the grant writer position. HR was mistaken thinking we needed a special grant position, a grant writer position. And we're like, no, exactly the same as the city will work best for us, will work really well. So they were able to move forward on that. Bernice had some information for me this morning that was promising we can move quickly on it. The veterinarian position, however, continues to be an issue. It's gone out to a consultant to find out the proper pay range because the city does not have a veterinarian position to compare to it like we do the grant writer. But that was good to hear. I think about 2 weeks ago, they said that it went out to the consultant for that price comparison.
So again, I don't want to be hypercritical, but all these, these positions are dependent on us doing all the forward thinking things we want to do. And if we want to get, that $6,700 from a grant, if we want to do all these extra things, we need the grant writer. So it's like a catch-22. So I hope that my colleagues on city council will encourage our city manager and really, really push for that to happen, because I'm okay with a couple of months, but 8 months or however long it's been is to me unacceptable. And I feel like I have to call it out today. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I agree with you. I do believe that now that we have Ifo Pili on board as our city manager, he came on in September. And I think that things will move rapidly. They have been in other respects. So, but I agree with you. The three of us on city council should approach Mr. Pili individually or collectively. There's no problem there. There's no OMA violation making that request, that joint request. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Thacker.
Bernice just texted me and said that the grant writer position should, or hopefully could, be posted today.
Oh,
Recruitment.
okay.
So that's good.
That sounds good. And then the other position, the veterinarian, is also in the makings? Or that's more difficult?
Yeah, more difficult. We're waiting on the consultant side of that to figure that out. And all of our, just a really quick update. We did have a mass exodus of employees.
Yes.
Spay neuter coordinator, our rescue coordinator, and our volunteer coordinator all left within a few weeks of each other. And like Councilor Gonda said, all to great jobs that pertain to more to their degree and also better pay. So we have no hard feelings. It was great. I was very happy to see them make the move. So those jobs all got quickly posted thanks to Bernice and HR. They're in the final week of recruitment, and we'll start that process. All of our positions at the front and also in the animal caregiver side have gone through interviews, and so they're going to be filled within the first weeks of February. Offers have already gone out for the office side. So things that we're looking forward to having new people.
Sounds good. Yeah, and yes, it does sound like the staff you did that moved on, very good, good for them. Good for them.
We actually had 3 move into animal control officer positions. So that's fabulous. That's 2 at the city and then 1 in Anthony. So we're very happy for them. And that's only advantageous for us because they know everything about it. Yep.
Right. And I do have one question though, and I think that it does concern facilities or maybe operations. Are we getting a better hold on the reporting by the ACOs? We do get those twice daily reports, and there's still some glitches, as to the identification of the animal. There was a glitch there when someone said that the animal had no, I don't know, they say yes and then they say no, inconsistent reporting on the one animal by the same officer at the same time.
Yeah, we still have some issues going on, but thanks to Jeannie and also Gino, that as soon as we we state this is an issue, we get the officer side of the story, and we see how they're able to make mistakes. So we go back and we just a process of education and the reasons
Okay.
why, and asking for information to be done. So I feel confident that we'll be able to work through those and get some solid reporting.
Okay, yeah, like the DOB sometimes is given as the date that the person, excuse me, that the critter is collected. So, okay, thank you so much. Okay, thank you again, Mayor Pro Tem, for your report, and Director Thacker.
Madam Chair,
yes.
Mr. Enriquez has his hand up.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, Mr. Enriquez, forgive me.
No, thank you, Madam Chair, and no problem. I just wanted to say that your comments and the message is well received, and I will also talk to Mr. Peely about that. And believe me, our efforts here on the third floor now is to make sure that we get the proper resources where needed. So we'll move on that. So the notes are being taken, and the message is well received, and that's what we're here for. So we're gonna move on those things. So thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Enriquez. It's certainly a pleasure to have you on board. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now we can move on to item 5, action items, election of officers. Board officers, presumably.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
the rotation kicks in this year, and the new chairman has to be selected as someone from the county.
Right.
And in that instance, I nominate Commissioner Sanchez to be the
Okay. Commissioner Sanchez, do you accept the nomination?
Yes.
Wonderful. I second that nomination. Are there any other nominations? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Madam Chair, I'm a little
No one
confused.
else is, yes, I'm sorry.
I'm a little confused about this because we have chair, vice chair. Isn't Mr. Sanchez vice chair, and that it sort of just automatically or moves up?
I don't know about the automatic, but yes, he is vice chair. And but I don't know this. I've only been on the board a year, and I don't recall if there was any discussion regarding that. So good thing he's accepted, because if it was, if he said no, sorry, you're out of luck. This is automatic. Yes, Mr. Ellens. Hello?
You're on mute, Mr. Commissioner.
I don't believe there's an automatic promotion provision
Okay.
in the joint powers agreement.
Well, we actually have not only the joint powers agreement, but we also have
Our bylaws.
bylaws. So in the bylaws, it says and I don't have them in front of me. I wish they did. Maybe Clint or somebody might have them that's at the office, easier to access. But we do have bylaws. And so while we're on this, I think, and I'm confused about it, I want to recommend that that the new board members get the annual report, the bylaws, and all the things, and a bit of an orientation from Clint and others about the board and sort of what our role is moving forward. I think that's really important to do. But Clint, do we have bylaws in front of anybody that could refer back?
I'd have to look and see if we have something on our save drive for that. So I'll look right now.
Oh, thank you. Well, in the event, it is in the bylaws that the vice chair assumes the chairmanship, or not. I mean, if it's an elected position, or whether it's an assumption of the position, we can vote on it and we wouldn't, and he would still, that we would still have the same person. And I don't think we'd be in violation of the bylaws if Mr. Sanchez became Commissioner Sanchez became the new chair. What do you think, Mr. Allens?
I've written and read dozens and dozens of bylaws from different organizations. I don't remember what ours says, but generally speaking, the vice chair becomes the temporary chair in the absence of the chair. That's generally how the duties of the vice chair.
Correct. And I think everybody I think everyone would agree with that. That's usually the function of, not the fun. Well, yeah, that's as a function of the of that position. But how shall we proceed on this?
I'm looking currently through I'm going to look through our drive. I think the city has a bunch of stuff as well. And I think I see Mr. Enriquez's, not his hand up, but he's unmuted. So maybe he wants to say something.
Yes, I was going to
Yes.
say, I don't have any idea where those bylaws are at, but again, with the experience, I would say there are some organizations that say from vice chair to chair and things like that. But I believe in Robert's Rule of Order, you're appropriate with opening up the nominations. A nomination has been made. You're well aware that there is a rotation and that has taken place from city and county. So I think this is acceptable based on the Robert Rules of Order.
Thank you. Yes, I thank you for that. Yes, sir. Who was that? You?
This is Conthacker. I have the bylaws here.
Oh, okay.
And
Election of officers.
yeah.
Okay.
So section 4, election and term of office, it pretty much says in February of each year, terms of office shall have 1 year in length, filled by a board member, no more than 2 consecutive terms. Here at the end, it says the chair and vice chair shall be selected from differing governmental delegations. If the chair is from the city, then the vice chair will be from the county and vice versa. That's the only thing I can see pertaining to it.
How about, is there a specific section, Clint, on elections? Because this defines the duties.
Well, section 4 is election and term of office.
Here, there it is, yeah.
And that's what I just read from.
So, Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
if it's defined here as being
Elected.
in the meeting in February, would we want to postpone this agenda
Officers
item?
shall be elected at the regular meeting in February of each calendar year. Terms of office shall be 1 year and may be filled by a board member for a maximum of no more. That's an inconsistent statement. It says they can be elected for a period of no more than 2 years, and but our terms are only 1 year anyway, just by practice. But we have the option of becoming 2-year terms based on what I just read.
I think we should, since
year
it's
length and
February, we need to move it to February.
Yeah, we really have to move it to February. Thank you for spotting that, and thank you for Commissioner Sanchez, and thank you, Mr. Thacker, for finding this and accessing for us to read. So we'll definitely table this item February pursuant to our bylaws, and then we by then have a strict clarification as to whether it's an automatic assumption or whether there's an election. It sounds like it's an election, that item 4. So anyway, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Gandara, and thank you. So Commissioner Sanchez, don't call in sick that day, okay? Oh, I know, I'll be your proxy. I'll be your proxy.
Okay.
No, seriously. Thank you so much for hopefully accepting the nomination next month. Okay.
The better practice better practice is to nominate somebody for office when they're not there.
Oh, that's a very good practice. That's the best way to do it. So you can't be absent. Okay, thank you, everybody, for that input. The next item, excuse me, yes.
I'll be excusing myself. Thank you.
Are you leaving now?
Yes, thank you.
And thank you, and welcome again, Diana.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye-bye.
Okay, be well. Bye-bye. Okay, so let's move on to action item 5B, committee member appointments. We shall also table that, Mr. Thacker, because it goes consistent with the election of officers. Next is the resolution 20, excuse me.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Shouldn't we vote on each of those items to table? You can't just table. You got to vote on it.
You have to vote on tabling?
Yeah.
Really? Ooh la la. You mean meetings illegally? No, I'm just kidding. Yes.
Oh, I was just going to make the motion. I don't know if I can do them jointly, if we have to do them individually.
We have to do them individually.
Okay, then Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we move action item 5A, the election of officers, to a date certain to our next meeting, February 25th, 2021.
I second that. I can second as a chair. I can't move, but I can second, right?
Okay.
Yeah. All right, that's what the mayor does, so. Don't you do that too, Mayor Pro Tem? Yeah, no, okay.
Never done it, no.
Never.
Plenty of
okay.
you to second it. Plenty of you to second.
Yeah, okay. Well, you can second it just in case I'm wrong.
Second, Gandara.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we shall table action item 5 subsection A to a date certain for our next meeting on February 25, 2021. Is that 25? Am I correct? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Someone will need to call the roll. Madam
Yes,
Chair.
we need a roll call on that. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Board Member Gondra,
Yes.
Board Member Ellens,
Yes,
Board Member Abetes Duve,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sanchez,
Yes.
and Madam Chair Flores.
Yes,
Motion passes, Madam.
great, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
this is Commissioner Sanchez.
yes, sir.
I'll make a motion that we move action item B, the appointment of committee members to the February 25th board meeting.
So,
May I have this?
second, Gandara.
It's been moved and seconded to table the committee member appointments to a date certain to February 25, 2021, which is our next meeting. May we have a roll call on that, Mr. Thacker?
Yes, ma'am. Board Member Gondra,
Yes.
Board Member Ellens,
yes,
Board Member Abetes Duve,
Yes.
Vice Chair Sanchez,
Yes.
Madam Chair Flores.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you, thank you. Next, action item 5C, Resolution 2021-01, accept the FY20 financial audit. Do I have a motion on that?
So moved. Gandara.
Commissioner
Second,
Sanchez, I'll second.
is there any discussion on this? Did everyone have an opportunity to go through the audit and to read the resolution?
Madam Chair, are we not going to have a presentation from Mr. Gardner?
No. Do we, Mr. Thacker?
Don't see here, anybody?
Yes, we should. He's here. Oh, okay.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. Josie Medina, Accounting Manager for the City of Las Cruces. Before we have our external auditor, Chris Gardner, present Animal Services Annual Financial Report, I want to acknowledge the accountant, Amador Espinosa. He accurately prepared the annual financial report to meet accounting standards. He worked with budget, animal staff, and our external auditors to have a successful 2020 financial report. Thank you, Amador, for all your hard work. I also want to mention the audit report can be found on the city's website, las-cruces.org, government, and then under departments, finance department, under external audit reports. Now that we're in the fiscal year 2021, Josh Sappel is the accountant for Animal Services. We do changes with our accountants to promote cross-training. With this, I now introduce our external auditor, Chris Gardner.
Thank you, Josie, and Madam Chair and the board. I have some highlights from the exit conference and the items that we went over at that time frame. And so I will go through those. If you have any questions, feel free to interrupt, and I'll do the best that I can to answer any of those questions. The first slide talks about our responsibilities as auditors, and we did talk about this at both the entrance and the exit, because auditing standards really want to make sure that we get this across, because there was a lot of misconceptions about what audits really entail. And so what we were hired to do, as you can see in that top left box, is express an opinion on your financial statements. And what that means, if you look in the top red box, is we're giving what's called reasonable assurance. Again, we don't look at every transaction, and we're not giving absolute assurance on the numbers, but what our responsibilities are to test controls, look at statistical samples, and ensure that the financial statements are what we call materially correct. And what that means is the users of the financial statements, if there are errors, are not going to be big enough to change their opinion on the financial status of the organization. So that's our responsibility under auditing standards. Mexico State Auditor requires us to enhance our audit and do a government auditing standards audit, which is commonly referred to as a yellow book audit. And in a yellow book audit, we have to look at internal controls a little bit differently than we do in a regular audit. As you can see in that bottom left box, again, we're looking at internal controls differently, but we're not giving an opinion on internal controls. What that report does is it just spells out how we are looking at things differently. So, for example, in a regular audit, we don't have to actually test internal controls. We can just get an understanding of them and walk one transaction through, and then we can be done. Well, with the yellow book audit, we actually have to pick samples, test controls, and the New Mexico State Auditor also requires us to expand that even further. They have certain items that they require us to test, such as procurement, travel and per diem, use of P cards. There's a lot of other items that we have to expand our testing on in the state of New Mexico. And what happens with that is we issue a report, we spell out how we look at internal controls differently, and then at the bottom right, we're responsible for communicating any significant matters. And again, the New Mexico State Auditor has changed that and holds us to a higher threshold. So if we have any finding, whether it's significant or below that threshold, we have to report that in the financial statements. So the New Mexico State Auditor requires us to report anything that comes across. And so that's our responsibilities under the two standards that we had to follow for your audit. The next slide is talking about, well, what's the result? And so we issued an unmodified or a clean opinion. In essence, that's the highest level of assurance that we as auditors can give. And that report says that the financial statements are fairly presented in accordance with the standards that we have to follow. So this is a type of report that you want to receive, so this is a good thing. Again, we talked about the Yellow Book report. That report, we're not giving an opinion, but we are spelling out how we are testing internal controls differently. And again, as I mentioned, we have to report if we had any issues. And based upon our testing, we did not have any findings. And so this year's audit, there will be no findings included in our report. The next required communication I think is important for the board to hear is if we had difficulties in counter performing the audit, we'd have to let you know. And with COVID, it was a little bit different. but we did not have any difficulties at all. When we asked questions, we were given answers in a timely manner. When we asked for supporting documents, again, we were given answers and given that support in what we would expect as far as a time frame. So what I think that tells the board is that the finance department and your management are retaining the records in a good, orderly fashion so that they could answer those questions timely. And so again, I think it just is a reflection of the organizational skills of your financial records. To me, this next one is very important. I mean, we were talking about some budget issues earlier, and if we as auditors are having to come in and make lots of adjustments to your numbers, it should cause you some concern as you're going through the year and relying on those numbers to make your financial decisions. But as you can see, we did not have a single adjustment based upon our testing. And so what that tells the board is that you can rely upon those numbers that you're given throughout the year. And as you analyze those and you're making those financial decisions, whether to do additional purchases or not, you can feel confident in those numbers that are being presented to you that you're making those decisions from. So again, I think this is a really important communication to know that the staff are doing a good job in getting the transactions properly recorded and reporting those amounts to the board. In 2019, last year's audit, you did have a finding that had been around for a couple years where cash receipts were not being deposited within the 24-hour requirement. Based upon our testing, and I think we looked at 25 cash receipts, we did not have a single exception to any of those this year. And so we picked 25 days worth of receipts. And again, we had no exceptions. And since that is the case, this finding will not be included in your audit this year. So management was very proactive in getting this resolved this year. And so we did not have any exceptions. As we talked about a little while ago, based upon even with our expanded testing required by the state auditor, there's a lot more transactions that we have to look at in our state than we do in others. Even with that lower threshold of basically being on the ground level, if we have any exceptions, we have to include those as findings. We did not have any based upon our testing this year. And so there were no findings included in the financial statement audit. The last slide I have is just kind of a financial graph of your general fund. And as you can see, and it's been consistently increasing, but really between 19 and 20, your revenues and expenses stayed fairly consistent between the 2 years. So there's really nothing out of the ordinary that really we need to report on. With that, I'll open up to any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Garner. Are there any questions for Mr. Garner? Any comments? I don't see any. I don't see anyone's hands up. I would like to thank you, Mr. Garner, and I am very happy that there were no negative findings. It looks like everything is shipshape in regards to financial audit, reporting, and the audit came out clean. And I'm glad that last year's finding was corrected. Any comments by anybody? Okay, I don't see any hands up. Thank you again, Mr. Garner. Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Yes. And Ms. Medina, is there anything you would like to say in closing?
No, just again to thank everyone that helped us with the audit and also the animal services staff. And we're hoping to have a great, wonderful 2021 audit as well.
Great. And thank you, Ms. Medina, so much for your work on this. Appreciate it very much. Thank you and your department.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
Commissioner Sanchez.
Commissioner Sanchez.
It looks like Mr. Thacker has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Mr. Thacker, proceed.
Just wanted to point out really quick, we're going to be supplying the link that Josie mentioned first. We're going to supply that on our Facebook so everybody, public, can review that information it's given. Also, if any of the board members would like a paper version of this report, we do have it available. Just let me know via email and we'll get it shipped to you. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Thacker. Can you send that to me, please?
You have to email me. No.
That
I'll
was mean. My feelings already hurt.
get one sent to you.
I'm going to start, growling here. Great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, so much. And congratulations, Mr. Thacker, for your directorship and assuring that last year's findings were corrected. We'll move on to now the vote on the resolution. Or has everyone had an opportunity to read through the resolution? By the way, we did receive a letter from Brian Colon Esquire from the State of New Mexico Office of the State Auditor, addressed to Terry Gayhart, our City Financial Services Director, and regarding the report. And it's all public record at this point because it's December 22, 2020. Is that on the Facebook page too, Mr. Thacker?
I don't know if that specifically is, but we're going to have a link to that report. So I don't know if that's included in the report.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The report was reviewed by the OSA, so, and we got a gold star on that as well. So has everyone had, all board members, have you all had an opportunity to read Animal Services Center of the Mesilla Valley Resolution number 2021-02, a resolution establishing an adoption fee schedule for the Animal Services Center of the Mesilla, oops, that's the wrong one. Flip the page, they were stuck together, okay. A resolution authorizing the governing board for the Animal Services Center of the Mesilla Valley to approve the annual financial report for the year ending June 30, 2020. I'll read it for the record. Whereas the financial statements, the governing board of the Animal Services Center of the Mesilla Valley, ASCMV, is informed that whereas the financial statements of the ASCMV have been audited by Patillo, Brown and Hill, LLP for the year ending June 30, 2020, and whereas on December 14, 2020, the Office of the State Auditor received ASCMV audit report submitted by Patillo, Brown and Hill, LLP on behalf of the Animal Services Center of the Mesilla Valley. And whereas the Office of the State Auditor has completed the review of the audit report required by Section 2.2.2.13 NMAC, and whereas on December 22, 2020, the Office of the State Auditor released the audit report as shown in Exhibit A, and whereas the annual financial audit report for the year ending June 30, 2020 is hereby presented for approval by the governing board of the ASCMV. Pass and approve this 28th day of January 2021. May we have a vote on this?
I believe a motion has already been presented, correct, Madam Chair?
Oh, yes, there was a motion and there was a second. That was prior to the presentation, correct. So we can have a vote on this at this point.
Board Member Gonda.
Yes.
Board Member Ellens. Board Member Ellens.
Yes, yes. Is it unmuted?
Yeah, got that one. Board Member Tuve.
Yes.
Vice Chair Sanchez.
Yes.
Madam Chair Flores.
Yes.
Motion passes, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Thacker. And next item on the agenda is 5 action items, subsection D, resolution 2021-02 02, establish an adoption fee schedule. Do
Thank you,
we,
Madam Chair.
do we do the motion to approve? No, we just.
So moved.
Presentation.
We can.
Yeah, we can, and then we can have the presentation, right? Yeah. Thank you.
Commissioner Sanchez, I'll second the motion.
Thank you so much. Mr. Thacker, would you please present?
Yes, Madam Chair. So we being the managers of the Animal Service Center saw that we have a little bit of an issue with our adoption prices and also the animals that are available for adoption. So first of all, why the reasons for these change? We really wanted to push out the adoptable animals as the ones that are sterilized and also our long-term animals. As you can remember, those that have been on the board for a while, we always have more than 100 animals in our foster to adopt program. Now, just as a side note, foster to adopt means that the animals that have left the shelter as adopted, but they're still property of the center because they're not sterilized yet. And so the people adopt the animal goes home with them, and then it's returned when we tell them, say, okay, we have an appointment this day for your sterilization, so they bring the animals back. The whole program hinges on those people bringing the animals back. According to our percentages, about 40% of these animals are not being brought back. And this is putting a unsterilized animal back out in the community. So we've got to do better. And that was the main driving force behind this adoption change. And I hope you see the reason behind it and that it works. It does work out. So with these high numbers of the animals in the foster to adopt program, we looked at redoing the adoption fee. Another reason is we need to start covering some of our costs. So sterilization on average is $123 per animal. And that is like average for dogs and cats. We also need to start covering the cost of the stay that it costs for the animal to be here. And we also have some revenues that are being lost because of COVID. And also the future city ordinance that's going to go forward, we hope passes, is do away with the licensing. So we need to make up that revenue as well. So this change is geared a lot towards those reasons. Another one that we really liked and the staff likes is being able to do monthly specials again. If you remember back in 2018, 19 times, we were doing fun little monthly specials because our adoption prices were higher. We were able to do a reduced rate and get some attention there. But with our prices being so low, the last year and a half, we have not done monthly specials. And I know me and the staff would like to start doing those. Those are a lot of fun. So what are we talking about? How much? What we're going to be doing is we're going to start with the base price. And then from there, we're going to be offering discounts when the animal fits into that category. So the base price is $150. Now, if the animal is already sterilized, remember our main focus is to push people looking from an unsterilized, going to the foster adopt, into a sterilized animal. Well, if it's sterilized, they get a $75 discount off of that base price. And then if the animal's been here longer than 3 months, then they get another $25 off of that. Some animals will remain free, like we have now. Heartworm positive animals and then senior animals are free for adoptions because we like to get those out as soon as possible as well. There's cost association with both of those. So we offer those for free. I know my little dog, my little Tiki dog, she's 12 and I just had to put her on some medicine. And that's going to be a monthly thing from now on. So we need to be sure to take in consideration there's extra charges for those heartworm and also senior animals. So, yes, sir.
When does an animal become senior?
We have on our records, our software recognizes it as 7 years old as a senior animal.
So I have a senior dog and I didn't even know it.
We actually had to talk about this in our managers meeting. We're like, well, it depends per age, like a German Shepherd or a little Dachshund or a Chihuahua. And we decided to keep it at 7 years because that's what our shelter software automatically recognizes as a senior. And even though our medical director had some heartburn about that, we got her to agree to it. So, like I said, the animals also remain free for that.
My baby. You can get some.
There are, I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Oh, no, I was talking to Edie. Sorry.
Okay. So there are some concerns that I want to address that came up when I presented this to the executive committee and also to the finance committee. We're looking at a worry, and this, when I sent this out to our regular staff, our coworkers, this was one concern that came back to me. Is higher adoption fee, that has a possibility of lowering our adoption numbers. Well, keep in mind, before we changed it to what it is now, the $25, the adoption fee was $75 for dog and $50 for cats. And we're actually saying $50 for an animal that's sterilized and an animal that's been here longer than 3 months, it's already $50. So we're already matching that price, and it's lower than it was for dogs 2 years ago. We also found that if somebody really wants a specific animal, they're going to pay whatever it is for that. If somebody walks in and sees their dream dog of a German Shepherd or a Golden Retriever or a Maine Coon cat, then they're going to pay the $150. And the $150 will pay for sterilization, so we'll still sterilize it. It also pay for the vaccines and the licensing and the microchip that this fee will also pay for as well. So they're still getting the same service. Another worry is that potential adopters, they might go out to a rescues to adopt. They'll see ours, oh, yours is more. Well, I know APA maybe does it for more or for less money. So they go out to the APA is a rescue here in town, action program for animals. I called them and they charge $50 for an animal. That includes sterilization because most of their animals are already sterilized, and $25 for senior animals. Talking with APA, they said the highest they know in the area is $100 for a already sterilized animal. So us being unsterilized, you're paying for it with that extra, the extra $50. So I think we're still, if an animal chooses, or if a person chooses an animal that's still in that area, already sterilized and longer than 3 months, they're still within within the whole entire region of $50. To go back really quick to the potential adopters, if they do go to rescues, these rescues are pulling from us. So in turn, if they empty out a rescue, the rescue comes and says, let's take more animals. And so we will continue to get help from them at a faster rate. And one very valid concern is price too high for cats. Again, looking in this, we talked to rescues. Some, just the specific cat rescues, are charging $50 for that. And it's only a ridiculous amount of the $150 if they're choosing non-sterilized animal and it's short term. Most of our cats right now. And this is another thing. I'm sorry to go back, but 3 months. Our animals are getting sterilized before 3 months happens, the ones that are in-house in shelter. So to say that there will be an unsterilized animal that has been here longer than 3 months is very, very rare. So those two will pretty much go hand in hand for that. And that's my presentation. I'd love to answer any questions. We would like to see this approved today. And we would start with the February 1st start date for new adoptions. We already have plans on how to decorate the kennels with the prices that they're going to have, reduced rates, and also how we're going to organize it on our Facebook page and also on our web page. So we would love to have any feedback you may have.
Yes, Mr. Ellens.
I'm sorry.
No, Mr. Ellens, do you have your hand up do you have a question or comment regarding Clint's?
No,
you do not?
I do not.
Thank you. Counselor Abeta Stuvey, you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Clit, for addressing even some of the questions that I had during our meeting as well in here. So I really appreciate that. For clarification, because I know one of the ultimate goals on this is to make sure that when an animal leaves, that it comes back to be sterilized or is already sterilized. I know one of the main focuses on this. With the change, when you have an adopter go out with an animal that like your foster to adopt programs, those animals still aren't sterilized yet. So are we just then assuming that because of the higher cost that they'll be more inclined to bring them back to get that sterilization? And then are we going to have a method to track that during this time to see if that was effective change?
So hopefully I can get all your questions there. The first one is that, yes, that is the hope, that they're paying more for it. And we'll also stress that in the adoption kind of an interview that we do with them, that you are paying for this. You need to come back and get it done. The animal is still our possession, our property, and the adoption is not complete until the sterilization is completed. So that is the hope there. The other question you asked about tracking, yes, we can currently track how many animals are in our foster to adopt program. So we would be able to look and see if the numbers are reducing or if they're increasing or they haven't changed.
Okay, great. And then with that, I've still, because we're coming up, as you said, on kitten season, with the large amount of cats kind of in question in the community and stuff like that, I was wondering what types of specials or pricings do we think is reasonable to encourage people to really adopt those animals that are already kind of have a heavy, I don't say they're unwanted, but that's a hot topic in the community.
Yeah, so the animals you're speaking of, most likely, let me start over. If a TNR program is implicated and completed correctly, you got to remember it's not just the feral cats that are going to be TNR'd and sent back out. It's any cat that doesn't show sign of ownership. So it could be a friendly, healthy cat, but it's just somebody's outdoor cat. Mm-hmm. That would go into the program. So that cat, the high surge that we're talking about, most likely wouldn't come into our adoption program. However, with what you're saying is we're gonna get kittens, and if somebody really willing to pay $150 for a kitten just because it's too young to be sterilized, well, we have a dedicated medical team that will be sterilizing younger kittens. I mean, she likes it to be over a certain age or weigh a certain amount, but we can definitely sterilize young kittens. And also, it's something that we can look at and change. With the freedom to do this, we would be able to run specials that say kittens need to be out of here, or kitten crazy. All adoptions are this much. So we're very flexible on moving animals out. That's a good question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then I know Ms. Gilbert has her hand raised, but I was just going to ask if the rescues then might see hopefully they'll see an influx of clients, I think, on their end if we have people that don't feel like paying those fees. And so I'm just wondering if there's beyond APA, and which I love them as well, if we've had discussions, if everybody's kind of ready to potentially see those types of shifts.
I'm sorry, you must have cut out right there at the end. I didn't understand. Was it a question or a statement?
The question is if we've talked to, I guess, the main rescues, especially perhaps the ones that focus on the cats beyond APA, to see if they're ready for a little bit of these shifts.
So no, I have not talked to the larger cat-focused adoption rescues, no.
Okay.
But I'm sure they wouldn't have a problem with having, more people come and adopt from them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. And thank you, Madam Chair. Those are all the questions I have at the moment.
Thank you, Councillor Beta-Stuvey. Mayor Pro Tem Gandara, you have your hand up.
I do, Madam Chair. Thank you. I wanted.
I'm saying hi to Penny.
Oh, hi, Penny. I wanted to ask Clint about in the past when you've raised the prices and such, you gave us some indication, I believe, of other county or city centers that are doing similar things. Where do we rate, and what does the standard say, the industry standards say basically about this? You mentioned, and so, go ahead, I'll let you answer that.
So we did, I'm part of the Facebook group that has other directors in it from all across the country. And if you want to get a convoluted answer, just ask this question about what adoption fees. They are all across the board. There is no standard. Some places have a metrics where it's the amount of animals that are currently in the center. I know that's how El Paso does it, is the number of animals in the shelter fluctuates their price. It was crazy trying to figure out, like an average or trying what to do. So as a management team, when I reported that to them, we took out the parts that we really liked, and that's sterilization. We want to push those animals, and then more of the long term, make them look really good, just price wise. And so that's why we stuck with those. And then the price is basically we went off what it was previously before we dropped it down to the 25. And then we also looked at the cost of the sterilization. That was a big one. We need to start covering these animals that people are electing to buy unsterilized. It needs to be covered for that. So that's where those prices came from.
Okay, I appreciate that, Clint. Thank you. And you had made mention about the licensing and having to recoup, right? That in the new ordinance, we will be eliminating the licensing fee. Is that from year to year? And what would that, if we're doing that, you said it would help make up the difference, if you will. And I just want to see those numbers.
Those are numbers that I have to get for you. I know that it's pretty minimal, especially during COVID right now. I think we're only at like 20, I want to say like 27% of where it should be for the city and the county licenses. But I can get those numbers to the board and send them out.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. Well, it would be helpful to, for me to have that, to weigh in on whether I agree with this or not. And then, yeah, I guess those are all my questions at this point.
I know if Josh is still on, I know that number was in his financial report. In revenues, it showed that they were, and it should be in your packet probably as well. Under revenues, I think the first two lines there are city and county revenue licensing.
And Clint, I guess then typically we don't, not everybody is licensing their pets. That's part of the issue, right?
Yeah.
That's the biggest issue. So that was one of the reasons, I think, of many that we in our task force talked about eliminating that fee. So I don't know that, this would be helpful or not, but I do know that there is a concern about recouping the costs of sterilization. It can be costly, and our numbers were so low, right, that we were sort of losing out, if you will, and venue.
our numbers were astronomical in the foster to adopt program. When I came on, I think we were in the several hundreds of animals in the program. And now we're down into the hundreds. I know just recently, Dr. Haddon sent me a report and shows that there's 45, only because she has dedicated more time to the foster to adopt animals to be sterilized on her schedule log. But what does that mean? Is that means less animals in the center are getting sterilized. So it's like a give and take. But I think that's where those high numbers were coming from. Licensing has never been a big, when I say a big, not a major revenue maker for the center, because there just hasn't been a big push for compliance. And that's what we talked about in the task force, is it needs to be either we go at it 100% and enforce it, or we let it go and we focus more on microchipping and getting animals more towards reunited with their owners.
Sure. Thank you, Clint, for your comments and answers. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Mr. Clint, Mr. Thacker, apropos of revenues, pet licenses, this is General Fund 7440. It, taking into account all of last year, it accounted for 22, wait a minute. Yeah, the City of Las Cruces was 22.7%, and pet licenses for the county was 28.9%.
Now, is that the audit you're looking at, or is that the monthly report?
That the state, see, I'll tell you what it is. It's a statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance as of December 31, 2020, unaudited. This one.
Yeah. So what that's saying is we should, so that's on a fiscal year. What we should be at is around 53%. 53% is normal for revenues collected, because we're only 50% of the way through our fiscal year. And it's currently only at, like you said, in the 27 and 28%. So they're not a major revenue driver for us.
Okay. I see. Compared to, well, investment income is at 699%. So it's like, whoa, we're millionaires. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Thacker. Commissioner Sanchez, and after that, Ms. Gilbert, but Mr. Sanchez, please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Clint, I know I appreciate there was a couple of notes that you had added in the presentation, and I know I'd asked her in the Finance Committee in terms of what our local the rescues had been doing. So I appreciate having that information. While I still think I have reservations, just because of some people may see the base price, and this is something I had voiced, I think, during that Finance Committee as well. I think I understand where you're going with it, and I do believe that's something I've said I think during this meeting. I joked around about it as well. Is that I encouraged you to continue to think outside the box, and like I said, while I may have my reservations, I do believe this is something different, and I wouldn't mind supporting this. I think we should, if this were to be approved by the board, what I would probably ask is that we come back maybe after a few months after this is implemented and take a look and see, are you receiving feedback? What do the numbers look like? And either change it, or at least have some discussion about this change. Like I said, if it is approved, but like I said, I am willing to try different things just to try to see what works. And I understand, like I said, the approach and trying to steer the attention towards those animals that maybe we really want to focus on getting out of the center and into people's homes, so that way they can find a good home. So I said I I appreciate the work that you've done with this and helping trying to find information and get some answers with the questions that have been raised. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
I think it's a great idea. Do like a 4-month review and a 6-month review and see what those numbers are. I like that.
Yep. Like I said, I'd be curious just to see if it's something we're seeing a huge drop off. Then maybe we reassess. But listen, even with my reservations, I'm willing to support this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And thank you, Commissioner Sanchez. Ms. Gilbert, your comments, please, or questions?
Yes, I like the idea of going back and having a review, and I think largely I support it. And with a review, perhaps then you'd be able to tell if this change is going to have unintended consequences. And by that, I mean, one thing that I just thought of right off the top is, okay, so the $150 fee applies to short-term non-sterilized animals. So could a consequence be that a short-term becomes a long-term animal? I guess then the fee would be lowered, but we don't want the animals sitting in the shelter either. We know that there are behavior problems that occur and it's an emotional, psychological, emotional impact on animals too. So that would be my concern if there's unintended consequences by this. But I think largely it's a very good proposal. We need to get our animals that are already fixed, adopted, and we need to get, they are our priority animals and the long-term ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean.
Ms. Gilbert.
To that, I would only say that to remember that this is not the only way animals are leaving our center. We have a very active rescue program, and rescues, especially out-of-state rescues like Halo, are taking non-sterilized animals. And those animals, they have to be sterilized before they leave Halo or leave those rescue areas. And that's where we would gear them towards these non-sterilized animals. So great comments, Jean. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you, Mr. Thacker, for your comments. Mr. Allens, your hand is up. Do you have a comment or a question?
Yes, I do.
Proceed.
Whenever we get the financials, including today, it shows that our revenues are exceeding our expenses, and that's occurring under the current fee program. So I'm reluctant to want to approve this because it's not causing us to lose money. We're still getting a net increase in our revenue, and I have real concerns about the slowdown in adoptions. Because if I walked in and I saw it was $150 for a cat, I don't think I'd want to adopt that cat because there's cats from here to there. So I may vote no.
Thank you, Mr. Allens.
To that, Madam Chair, I just want to state that the revenues are a little bit skewed when you look at that percentage on there because the city and the county both pay a large sum up front at the very beginning. And that's why it's at such a high number right now. The later in the month or later in the fiscal year that we get, the lower that percentage stops growing or becomes more realistic for that. And also, to comment, Commissioner Ellens, I'm with you. I wouldn't adopt a $150 cat. I would look at the $50 cat. that's been there for a long time and that's already sterilized. And that's the whole idea, is to push people away from the $150 animal to the lower one.
Thank you, Mr. Thacker. Any other comments? Mr. Sanchez, is your hand up or did you
Yes,
forget?
Madam Chair. I just quickly wanted to add to what Mr. Thacker was saying. in addition, I think one of the things that we've seen so far in the financials is that because of COVID, because of the number of vacancies that have to be filled in terms of staff, there has been some cost savings to the budget. And so it's, although we are probably, I think, under our budget parameter for this time of year through the month of December, it's somewhat artificial. And so as soon as we start filling, or at least as Mr. Thacker starts to fill those positions, we will start to you'll see that number kind of inch up again in the cost. So just something to keep in mind. And to Commissioner Allens's point, and I think this is something we talked about as well, that I think Mr. Thacker hit it on the nail on the head, which was, and I think this was the turning point for me, is I don't know if you want to call it the salesmanship of it, where you go to a car lot and you see the really expensive cars, and then they might the prices might steer you away from them, but then all of a sudden you see something like that fits the bill of what you're looking for, a family pet, a cat for companionship, and it's half that price, and that kind of steers you towards that maybe section of the animals. I think that there's something to be said for the human nature when you're looking for deals, and when you're looking for something that, although you maybe you go in thinking you're looking specifically for a specific breed of animal, if the center can turn your attention towards another animal that might be might not what you went in for, but it could end up being the right decision for you in terms of the cost, and in terms of the companionship of what you're looking for. I think that's what did it for me during the discussion, is how that price might steer that attention towards animals that we want to move. So just wanted to add that point. So thank you, Madam Chair.
And thank you, Mr. Sanchez. If there aren't any other comments, I would like to contribute to the comments that have been made. I agree in what Mr. Commissioner Sanchez has said in its entirety. I also would like to add that the longer we have an animal at the shelter, the more our costs and expenses go up. And everything is skewed insofar as cost savings at this time because of COVID, as Commissioner Sanchez pointed out. And the other factor that plays into this is the fact that a lot of animals haven't been taken in for safety reasons and whatever. And I think that, yes, you see the $150 and, for someone who has paid, I paid $600 a piece for my Jack Russell Terriers. And boy, did I live to regret it. They're terrors. No, I loved Max and Wishbone very much. May they be in dog heaven. But when you look at the fact that you can bring that animal back to be sterilized. And Clint, did you say that the the center? I'm so sorry, Madame Mayor Pro Tem, you hate that word. The center retains ownership of the animal when it's sold at $150?
Yes, the actual ownership is not transferred over until the animal is sterilized.
Okay, but they pay the $150 ab initio from the get-go?
Yes.
Okay. So then, but they know that they have the luxury of coming back and having a free spay or neuter.
Not only the luxury, but we make the appointment for them. We contact them, say this is your day, tell them everything to come, and everything's included. They just drop the pet off and then pick it up later that night.
Right. And how much does a spay or neuter cost these days?
Well, with us, just only the time and the equipment, it's around $123. But if you go to a regular veterinarian, I mean, for a female, it could be upwards of $300.
Yeah. So, yeah, all that being said, I think that charging $150 is reasonable, given the fact that there is some control over that. If they choose not to, is there a time period, Clint, where they buy it on day one and then they have months, days, whatever to conform to those terms, or what happens?
It's usually about 3 weeks out is what we are right now with surgeries. So after 3 weeks of the adoption, we're contacting them, setting up appointments. If they don't respond or they no-show on their appointments, we do send a letter out after 1 month reminding them that it's still the center's property. We need to get the animals sterilized. And then we do it again at another I think it's 3 weeks. We send the same letter out. And then at 3 months, if we have not heard from them, we send a pretty nasty gram stating that the animal's going to be reported as stolen and all this information. And so we also get compliance from those letters as well. So they have upwards of 3 months to come into compliance with it.
Right. And what if the animal goes into heat during those 3 months? Or they, they may be over 6 months old or so.
Yeah, that's the whole thing about getting this program out of here. I mean, we would love to get to the point of not doing any more foster to adopts, but we recognize the fact of our high intake and that we're not going to get all these animals sterilized that somebody's interested in before they're able to get adopted.
Right. So insofar as salesmanship goes, as that word was used previously, I believe, by Commissioner Sanchez, would you say for $150, this is what you get, all the bells and whistles type of thing, and we're going to make sure you comply? And you hit him over the head with a hammer. Okay, I'm totally for it. So I want to thank you, Mr. Thacker. Mayor Pro Tem Gandara, is your hand up again? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry, I probably should have said this, but is there any way that we can wait on this? And what would be the ramification or consequence for doing so? I am concerned about our adoption rates going down because of it, but also, COVID, a lot of our folks are experiencing financial loss and, in different ways have been affected by COVID. And I'm wondering if we can wait and visit this maybe in the summer. I don't know, but I'm not sure that I'm in agreement to this at this point and at this point in time, honestly. So thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome, Mayor Pro Tem. Well, it's been proposed that we check in 3 months minimally, maybe, or 4 to 6 months to review it. And we can check then whether it's working. And I agree with you that COVID has skewed everything. I mean, everything has, it's thrown a wrench into everything.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
If I may,
Of course.
I would hesitate delaying it. We've had plans on the background. Like I said, we've working on our website, just waiting to flip the switch. We have the kennels and everything that we're just waiting to flip the switch. And also, it's not hard to do a first month, February. We want to do the For the Love, FUR, for the love of the animal. And do a special, and let's do a $25 adoptions for ones that are sterilized. This opportunity gives us the availability, or it gives us the chance to do those and do those fun specials and hit Facebook hard. And I really do not expect a decrease in adoptions with this at all. So that's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Mr. Thacker, what have been the adoption rate, the adoption rate We have a full year now of COVID, or excuse me, almost a full year. I think it was in March when everybody definitely, I mean, it started trickling out in January and then it really hit us in March. So we almost have a year to measure how adoptions have gone for, a sizable chunk of time. Do we have those stats to see how they were before and how COVID has, without a doubt, COVID has had an impact, certainly a big factor, perhaps? I don't know.
I don't want to comment too much on our year-end numbers. We're going to have that coming out next month, and our yearly report will be coming out in the February presentation. But I know that the adoptions have not suffered our number.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. Mr. Ellens, you've had your hand up.
Yeah, we don't have a motion on the table yet.
No, we don't. Oh, wait a minute. No, we do. We have a motion. We have a motion. We're discussing. We're in discussion.
All right, I didn't hear the motion earlier.
Okay, no worries. Ms. Gilbert, you have your hand up again? Yeah.
Yes, and I'll keep it short because I know the meeting has run really long. I want to ask Clint if you feel like there's already buy-in from the community on this, on the change in adoption fee, and also if it's something that can be mentioned for support at the conversations with the center meeting, which will be in another week.
So we have not been out to the public at all, saying that we're gonna do this because we didn't know if it was going to happen. We made arrangements on the back end just in case things did go through. It could just be a quick switch to flip. I don't, with the prices that are out there, I don't see any hesitation from especially the rescue or the rescue industry as well. I think that they'll be in line with it as well too.
And what I hear you saying too with this new program, if it passes, the new adoption fee, that it would be very, very flexible. So it would remain appealing to the public.
Correct. Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Gilbert. I agree totally with your comments. The flexibility is built in. If there are no further comments, we should take a vote on this. Roll call, please. Vote on this.
Yes, Madam Chair. Board Member Gondra?
No.
Board Member Ellens?
A very reluctant yes.
Board Member Bettestuve?
I'll mimic Commissioner Ellens, but a reluctant yes.
Vice Chair Sanchez?
Yes.
Madam Chair Flores?
A very robust yes. But we'll revisit in a few months, right, Mr. Clint?
Yes, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, it passes with 1, 2, 3, 4 yes and 1 no.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Ellens.
you say potato, I say potato.
Tomato? Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Madam Chair, Madam Chair,
You're on mute, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry. Yes, Mr. Ellens.
I have to leave because I have a 1:30 meeting. So I don't think my attendance is required for the final discussion, although I'm sorry I'm going to miss it.
Yeah, we don't have any more action items, so thank you very much for letting us know, Mr. Ellens. Be well. The next item is discussion items, microchips. And it is 12:37, I think it's the longest meeting we've ever had. I guess we've had the luxury of not taking up any Zoom time for anybody else on this, whatever. So,
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
I'm the one who put microchips on. It was requested by the executive committee. We had an email earlier in the month from Emile Bourdet is the gentleman's name.
Correct.
Former resident of Las
Las
Cruces.
Cruces.
Yep, he's still very involved in what we're doing here. He wanted the topic of microchips brought up, specifically wanting to know why animals are still being impounded with no microchips or bad microchip information. So with his request as an agenda item, I thought I'd put it on and have a quick discussion about microchips in general and what are some of the I don't know, the issues of not having it done. And I can tell you one thing right now is that the animals coming into the center, I can't gauge or I can't say why they're not being done rather than availability. I mean, Southern New Mexico Humane Society does a great program and teams up with Bark House quite a bit on doing adoption or doing microchips. We've done microchips in our drive-through clinics, and they're very popular. All the veterinarians in the area offer microchips. I know Dr. Carter does microchips at a discounted rate when she does her clinics. So it's all about the opportunities there. It's about the owners actually coming together or taking that responsibility among themselves and getting it done. That's my side on it. So what I'm saying is that I don't have a lot of control over who's getting these microchips. It's just all about creating the opportunity and hoping for compliance. And Emile brings up that, yes, they are mandatory. He's right. Microchips are mandatory. So maybe that falls more on the enforcement side of things. I can tell you every animal that comes into the center leaves with a microchip. No if, and, or buts about it. It gets a microchip, and it's also registered to the individual who redeems it. That's my side.
I just wanted to comment, Clint, wondering when they come into the center, if you know where they're coming from, if it's a district, county, and perhaps there's a problem with availability of microchipping. You know, sometimes I think of the South Valley. I don't know what the opportunities are for the microchip clinics, like you were referring to Bark Houses that HSNM did just recently with them, and they did close to 50, and they have 40 people on their waiting list for the next microchip clinic. So whenever they're offered, they're very popular. So I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's something we need to do more of opportunity of. And COVID has really put a issue on this in providing these clinics. My staff was very hesitant about being exposed to other staff or to other individuals out there. But it is an issue. I agree with Emile. We need to provide that opportunity and make it attractive for people to get their animals out. And like Jean said, get it out into far outlying areas. Can we track where these animals are being impounded from? Yes, we can. And so that's something that we can start doing once we have the resources to do. So. You're on mute, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Clinton. Thank you, Ms. Gilbert. Is there any other discussion on microchips? And it is an enforcement issue, but all right. Was there any public input? Did you receive any emails, Mr. Clint?
I did receive one. It's a little bit different. It's about animal control and the dogs on chains. And I responded to her and I told her that this isn't, the Animal Service Board does not have governance over animal control, but yet I let her know that I would read it. I told her that this individual needs to go to the city council and present it there. But it says, hello, Mr. Thacker. I was informed there will be a meeting tomorrow about shelter business and was told I could put in my 2 cents. I believe that the animal control officers could and should do a better job at enforcing the ordinances that we have, especially the dogs on chains. So many of us called about this terrible abuse and neglect of these poor dogs. If ACO shows up, nothing gets done. Most times they don't even come to check. These people need to be held accountable. Why do we have an ordinance if no one is going to enforce it? I see dogs all the time suffering the cold and the heat of end of chain with no human interaction at all. Please help us help them. I know more can be done. And with that, my experience, Madam Chair, and the board, as an animal control director, the complainant really doesn't know a lot of times what is happening. I would show up as an animal control officer and I would talk to the animal owner. And if that animal has the bare minimum of food, water, and shelter and vet care, or needed vet care that needs to be there, then there's nothing that can be done. Obviously, standards are a question here. I would never keep my animal chained up with a big chain around its neck in the backyard, but that's just me. And that's the issue, is as long as there's that bare minimum. Another thing is, like I said, a lot of times these individuals don't see when the animal control officer comes out, or they might be by a phone call follow-up, or also a letter sent. It's a lot of times they don't see that compliance part of it. I know it's a popular call, especially here with our hot winters that we have. But sometimes people's standards of caring for an animal are just different than the complainant. But that bare minimum has to be met. If it is, there's nothing animal control can do. And I don't know if Gino and Mary Lou are still on the call, but I'm sure they'd probably echo that.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Absolutely, Gino.
Gino Jimenez, City of Las Cruces Animal Control Supervisor. Yes, ma'am. That has been probably one of the hardest sections of the ordinance to enforce. I'm glad that it was put in there because I think it needed to be put in the ordinance so that these animals wouldn't live their entire lives on chains. But when we did that, we also put time restrictions. We said that if the animal was to be tethered to a fixed point, it could only stay on that fixed point for a maximum of 2 hours. And then we also put in there that if it was going to be on some sort of a trolley system or pulley system, that it could only be on that system for a maximum of 4 hours. The problem that we've run into is that when we respond to the calls, we can't verify how long that dog has actually been on that chain or on that tether, because we go ask the owner and they say, I just put it back on. How can I confirm or deny that if that's what the animal owner is saying? So what it takes is a lot of, and it takes a lot of manpower, if you will, for somebody to sit at that location for 2 hours to make sure that that dog is removed from that tether or that trolley system. Right now, I just got up to fully staffed. I have 3 officers that are in training right now, so it'll be mid-March before they're released on their own. Then I will be fully staffed. But the whole entire year of last year, I was at 5 officers. So manpower plays a big issue, or a big issue with enforcing that part of the ordinance.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jimenez, Officer Jimenez. And yes, that's exactly what Mr. Thacker, Director Thacker pointed out. It's an enforcement issue. And I think that's, and the crux of the problem lies in the, you have to see it happening. The officer has to see it. If the officer doesn't see it, it's happy. It's like when you're speeding down Loman, or when I'm speeding down Loman, not you, me. When a driver is speeding down Loman, if a cop doesn't catch me, yay. But if an officer is right behind me, which has happened on occasion, oh my gosh. I don't slam on my brakes. I just really slow down and hope that I can get away with it. And I have. I've been very lucky. But again, if the officer doesn't see it, it didn't happen, which is unfortunate.
Right.
God, what about a video? Is there any, no, because all of that would have to be double checked to make sure that the time is perfect and hasn't been in any way, adjusted, or what's it called, whatever.
And Madam Chair, in some cases, the judge will allow a video or photographs to be brought into play. However, that complainant or that citizen must be willing to testify in court that they took that photo or they took that video, so that it can be presented into court. And I think that's where a lot of the issue is because people don't want to be confronted or don't want retaliation from their neighbors. So therefore, they're not going to say anything from the get-go. They rely on us. And that's our job. And I'm not trying to shy away from it. However, it's a real hard section to enforce because of manpower issues.
Yes, yes. But, and thank you also for the clarification that photographs and videos will be viewed by a judge. Usually it's not admissible evidence because of the foundations that have, the foundation has to be laid for the veracity of the document itself. So, or the exhibit. Thank you, Officer Jimenez. Ms. Ward, you have your hand up.
Yes, I was just going to explain pretty much what Gino said, because I was looking at our ordinance and our times are pretty much mirroring what Gino's times are, the same amount of time, you know, the 2 hours and the 4 hours and even the 12-hour time with the trolley and without a trolley, and the amount of time that they could leave their animal on a chain. Again, we don't have the manpower to sit out there and actually watch the animal being on a chain. So when we do get called for something like that, a lot of times we'll ask the people that are calling to complain if they have witnessed the animal for that amount of time out on the chain, and they don't. They just see it out there, and then they'll go do something, and a few hours later they can come back and they see the animal out there, so they can't confirm that the animal's been out there for an extended period of time. And then when we talk to the owner, well, they've put the animal back out there. So we don't have that evidence showing that the animal has been out there for that extended period of time. However, if we do have somebody that says, yes, you know, I've witnessed that animal for that extended period of time, and they want to be a witness in court, we can go that route. Or if they've sat out a camera or whatnot and they haven't moved it and showed it and provided that for evidence, we will definitely go that route and issue a citation. But we will always start off by going to that individual and explaining to them and going over the ordinance and trying to get voluntary compliance that route. But that's the one way of doing that right now as well for us.
Thank you so much, Officer Ward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for taking that extra step to educate people as to what the ordinance is. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments? Okay. So is that the extent of public input, Mr. Thacker?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay. Thank you. We have item 8, chair and board comments. I certainly don't have any comments, except I'm hungry. Does anybody have any parting words? I don't see anybody's hand up. I think
Jeannie does.
Yeah.
Oh, Jeannie? Jeannie?
Yes.
Jeannie?
Just something really quickly. A couple of weeks ago, there was someone who was arrested and incarcerated at our detention center, and for some reason failed to tell anybody that he had a dog in his apartment. And the dog, of course, after being alone, started eating the sofa and then chewing on the door and left a complete mess inside until some neighbors contacted the landlord and they let him in, and the dog was put with somebody while the guy was in jail. So that was a concern I think that we all should have, really. So I contacted the jail detention center administrator, Baker, and we agreed that we were going to start preparing a form to give out to everyone, you know, basically asking them if they had any unattended animals at home that needed care. and that we would work with some of the rescue agencies to temporarily house these animals until either the detainee could make arrangements or the person gets out of jail. So it's right now in the beginning stages, but that's what we are talking about, and trying to get this form together and trying to get a process to where either we would contact somebody or we would pick up the animal on a welfare hold until arrangements can be made. But I think that's a concern, really, that it's another aspect of what we do. And that's all I have to say.
That's great. Thanks, Jeannie. I really like that.
Yeah, thank you. I do too. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think it's great that that question will be asked so that there could be a welfare check on the animal. Any other comments by the board? Okay. A motion for adjournment, please.
Commissioner Sanchez, so moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Sanchez that the meeting be adjourned, and seconded by Councilor Abeyta-Stube. The meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Great meeting.
Weekend.
Wonderful.
Good meeting.
Very good. Thank you, everybody.